Good
How are
morning.
you?
Good. How are you?
Morning. So I have gastroparesis.
Right.
I had the worst vomiting weekend.
Oh my gosh.
Went to Walgreens and got the liquid IV. My urine's brown.
Oh my
No
gosh.
energy. I just feel like it.
Oh,
So yeah, it's a horrible disease. I don't care what people say.
oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So I found that my studying was not as efficient as it normally is. I had to go back and
Well, yeah, that's because you got, your body is affected, which will affect your
yeah,
focus.
it's like, what does that mean? Was it sundowning? I know I read it, but what was it?
Yeah.
So I wrote my notes. Better get my jacket. It's cold.
Yeah, I'm turning the AC off.
Oh, okay. Morning, ladies.
Good morning. Do you have enough room back there? I can move the tables forward before everybody gets here.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, here.
Because if somebody wants to get through it,
Yeah.
that's good.
Okay. Gives you a little more room.
Did you have a weekend at least?
Yes, very good. Can't complain.
I feel like I got two.
Yeah, you got some big issues going on for sure.
I get to go see Gas Show today. I don't know what else they can do. I mean, I'm doing it with what I do.
Yeah.
It's just, it flares up. It's unpredictable. It's a weird thing.
Yeah.
Have you ever had anybody take the class and then decide they don't like it?
Yes. That does happen from time to time.
But guess what?
Is that you? Really?
I am just never been that type of person that would do any of those skills.
Okay.
I'm a helper. I help a lot of people.
Right.
But not in that capacity. So for me to think I'm gonna clean somebody's bottom, and do it graciously. I don't know that I'm gonna do it. I didn't even do that for my parents.
Well, parents are different.
Yeah.
Parents are
So
different.
I mean, I know I want to get something and do part-time job, something.
Well, there's a lot of aspects of CNA work. And I actually am going to ask you to kind of hold this question for about 3 more minutes.
Oh, good.
Because this
I
is
can't be
something
the
that
only
would
one.
benefit a lot of people. But the general idea is that there are not everybody needs the same type of care. So you'll have some people that need a lot more personal care, physical care. There's some settings where the care is more clinical. There's some settings where the care is more emotional. There's, settings where you're dealing with elderly, but there's also settings where you're dealing with children. So CNA is not pigeonholed into one specific demographic. So you may find that nursing homes are not your thing, but you may thrive in a mental health setting. Or you may do fantastic in a pediatric daycare. Or a walk-in clinic might be right up your alley. So there's a lot of different types of caregiving that's not necessarily the personal care that you're referring to.
Okay. Yeah.
So although, you need to give yourself the freedom, I don't want to talk you into, a career that you absolutely hate, of course.
Yeah.
But we have a great resource for that. And that's why I was trying to wait until everybody got here, but it's 9:00 now. We have a great resource for that. And it's on my main website. So if you go to foryourcna.com, right in the middle of the homepage, the first page, right in the very middle, you're going to see a workplace personality quiz. And I would encourage you to take that. It's free.
Okay.
But it will, it's going to ask you questions geared toward finding out what setting is going to be best for you.
Okay.
And it takes into account what you've just said. So if you're honest with yourself as you take it, it's going to really kind of help you narrow down, because right now you're thinking, well, maybe CNA isn't for me, but it might be just a different site than you're thinking. So I would encourage you to take that. The other thing that when you take that quiz, you're going to get a very long explanation as to why that setting is the right one for you. But that's just the one that, the answers led you to. At the bottom of the screen, the very bottom, you can actually read all the others as well. So like if it tells you that pediatrics is where you need to be, along the bottom, you'll also see home health and hospice and a rehab center and hospital. And take the time to read those because it really does give a nice overview of what to expect in each setting. Good morning. Oh,
You're having shoulder replacement?
good morning.
Oh.
Oh, it sounds like it. Sounds like it. Okay, it's 9:03, so we're going to go ahead and get started here. I'm hoping that some of our class is joining us online. But let me say hi to everybody that's here. Hello, Melissa. Hi, Sophie. Hi, Rose. Hi, Jezzy. Good morning, Naomi from Texas. Hi, Gladys. Hi, Tina. Hi, Jacqueline. And hi, May. Those are the people that have said hello. The rest of you that are in here, drop me a quick hi so I can recognize you and say good morning. You okay? Yeah, it seems like a pretty rough Monday for most people. Mondays tend to be less than ideal. All right. So did you guys do the homework, chapters 5 and 6?
I couldn't remember what I wrote. Oh, I'm not good at Denture. Well, could have some questions.
Chapter 5 was on dementia. I want to spend just a couple minutes talking about chapter 5. It's an important chapter because you're going to have a lot of dementia patients throughout your career. So it is important. Good morning. So it is important that we kind of talk a little bit about dementia and understanding what it is. And the term itself gets really confusing for people. So good morning. So dementia is what we call an umbrella term. The word by itself doesn't really mean much. It's kind of like me standing up here and saying, I'm sick. Well, is that a head cold? Is that a stomach bug? Is that my knee hurting me? Is that, I'm not in a good headspace today? What does that term sick even mean? I mean, it could cover a whole bunch of stuff, couldn't it? It's very non-specific. It just tells you, hey, something is wrong, something is off, but it's very non-specific, very general. The term dementia is just like that. Dementia is brain sick. That's all it means. Dementia is brain sick. It doesn't mean really anything other than there's something wrong with the brain. It's not operating properly. Now, there's lots of different types of dementia. The one you're probably most familiar with is going to be Alzheimer's. That's the one that makes the news. It's the one that they do walks for. It's very common to see out in the community. So Alzheimer's is probably the one you're most familiar with. But understand that not all dementia patients have Alzheimer's. Remember, dementia just means brain sick. Alzheimer's is a kind of brain sick. Does that make sense? There's other types of dementia. There's Lewy body dementia. There's multi-infarct dementia, where somebody has a lot of strokes and it has affected various parts of the brain. There's Parkinson's dementia. There's Jacobson-Crutchfield dementia. So there's all different types of brain sick. And they all have different causes and different treatments. So it's really important that you not think that all dementia patients have Alzheimer's. So, but I do want to spend just a minute talking a little bit about Alzheimer's, because I think if you kind of understand what's happening inside the brain, it'll make you more patient with the patient. So I want you to think about your time here in this class. Every day that you're here, you're making memories. You're probably not aware of it, but your brain is busy trying to catalog all of this. But your brain doesn't do this linearly. Your brain doesn't sit down and write a book with every single detail. What your brain does is it takes little bitty impressions and stores them away. So this room is cold for you guys. So in 40 years, cold may bring up a memory of your time here. Your colors are royal blue, black, and red. So 40 years from now, you may see red scrubs and it brings up a flash of memory from being here. You stopped at Dunkin' Donuts and you may, in 40 years, take a sip of something, have a taste of something, and a memory flash of your time here. So your memories are actually made up of all of your senses: feel, taste, sight, smell, all of the senses are going to make up your memories. Does that make sense? And it's not linear. It's kind of like a spider web. So you've got blue up here, you've got coffee down here, you've got cold over here, and they all hold together to make this memory. But those things can also be shared by other memories. So inside your brain, it's like this humongous spider web with everything kind of connecting. Does that make sense? Because memories are going to share common traits. Well, when you have Alzheimer's, those memories are still there. They're still there. What is broken are the spider webs. So your patients may have a memory, there's something there, but they can't quite access it because the connection is broken. Or they may recognize somebody, but have no idea what role they play in their life because that connection is broken. Does that make sense? Now, remember, I said that last week we talked about our brain as a memory making factory, and the memories we make when we're very young are concrete memories. They're good quality memories that stick around for a very long time. So when we have Alzheimer's patients, it's not uncommon for them to see a grandchild and think it's their child. Because those memories, the more recent memories, of that person, their child growing up and having children and being in middle age, those memories can't be accessed. They weren't made by a good quality factory. But the memories that they had when their children were young are still there. So they see the person and they think that must be my child because they're missing that piece in the middle. Does that make sense? So it's really, really important that we understand all that, because a lot of times with your dementia patients, they're not going to remember what you tell them. Or they're not going to be able to associate common things that you would have no problems associating. Okay, when you get to the dining room, you sit down and you eat. I mean, we know what to do. We get to a dining room, we sit down and we eat. We pick up the fork, we put it in the food and we eat. But a dementia patient may get to a dining room and have no idea what to do. What do I do here? Don't know. What do I do? What do I do? So they may need some prompting, some reminders, but we need to make them simple, because if you give somebody a lot of instruction all at once, it can overwhelm them. So if I say, Henry, sit down in that chair over there, pick up your fork, put your mashed potatoes on it and eat it, he's lost after sit down over there. So instructions should be simple, one step at a time. Now, it'd probably be easier for me if I just go over there and feed Henry, because that would make it a whole lot quicker. But that interrupts his independence, but it also can cause further decline as well. He needs that physical action to remind his brain of what to do. If you start going in and taking over everything, your patients will eventually need you for everything. And that's not a good thing. So we want to encourage independence as much as possible. We want to remain patient with them, even if we have to redirect or repeat. And we want to give simple instructions one step at a time. Does that make sense? So working with dementia patients can be very, very challenging, very difficult, because it's a mental fatigue. You can say the same things over and over and over and over and over and over and over, and it can really wear you down mentally. So you've got to look at your own personality. Are you the type of person that's a little bit impatient? You only want to say things once and you want to move on? Dementia may not be the place for you. If you're a very calm personality that understands the reason behind these issues and is able to provide those instructions often, with the same tone and direct them and encourage their independence, then dementia might be a great place for you. So you've got to figure out your personality. The thing about being a CNA is that it's not one size fits all. You may be absolutely fantastic in a rehab setting. You're very clinical minded. You like seeing the progress. You don't mind working with, different machines and a little more high tech. But you may find that very daunting. You're like, oh, no. I don't like machines. I don't like high tech. I want to just do pediatrics. All right. So remember that it's not one size fits all. You've got patients in a ton of different settings. You've got patients that are a ton of different ages and stages and needs. So you have to figure out what's going to be your best place. I am a high energy individual. I thrive on problem solving. If I don't have a problem to solve, I'll make one. That's just the way I am. I have to be solving problems. So if I'm working in home care with one patient and nothing to do, it's going to drive me insane because I'm way too mentally active for that. And yes, I can play Uno with them and I can put a puzzle together with them and I can clean their kitchen, but I am going to be absolutely miserable after about 2 weeks. Not my thing. Now you put me in the ICU, cool. I like not knowing what's coming in the door. I like all the machines. I like problem solving. I like watching for improvement or decline that we can intervene quickly. I like that environment. So I know for me, I know my personality. Home care is not really my thing. It's just not. That doesn't mean that it's not your thing. So you've got to figure out where the best place for you to work is, because what will happen is you'll get your shiny new CNA certification. Yay. You pass the test. You're all excited. You go out and you put some applications out because you need your first job and you're not picky about it. You just put applications out everywhere because you're looking for somebody to hire you. And then you get hired somewhere and you hate it. Now, you're probably going to think, I hate CNA work. What you hate is where you're doing CNA work. It may not be the CNA work that you dislike. Find a different place. Find a different type of caregiving. Does that make sense? I'd hate to see you waste all of this time and all of this money and all of this worry over the test to get out there and think, oh, this isn't for me, and then go to work in retail. We need you. We need you. Those patients need you. So there's a place for everybody. And all of them are hiring. But you've got to figure out what your place is. And I have a tool for you to do that. You go on to foryourcna.com, halfway down the main page, you're going to see a quiz, your ideal workplace. Take the quiz. It gives you your results based on, there's 19 questions, and they're all based on your personality traits and your preferences. Things like, do you like working 8-hour shifts or 12-hour shifts? Do you like working closely with a group of people? Or do you just want, coworker friends? You like to make friends in your job? Or do you just want to go in, punch your clock and go home? Right? No camaraderie. So it's going to look at all of those things and compile that information and figure out the best place for you based on your personality. Okay. A lot of psychology went into that quiz. It took me 2 years to build it. It is very, very detailed. Now, I had a ton of people working in healthcare take it, and it is scarily accurate. Scarily accurate. So if it tells you something and you're thinking, I'm not so sure about that, read through the description, because as you read through the description, you may realize, oh, That's me. But it's a setting I never thought about before. Okay. So that'll help you. But understand that dementia patients can be challenging. They require a lot of patience. They require a lot of repetition and a lot of direction. My very first initiation with dementia, I was brand new out of nursing school, worked in a nursing home. And we had this, I worked day shift. We had this little old lady. She was a Southern belle, sweet as pie. Had all the manners. Oh, honey, no, thank you. Yes, thank you. I'll just go over there. I mean, just super sweet. And I left at 3. I worked 7 to 3. This woman is a dream. I don't know why she's on the dementia unit. I mean, she needs some direction, a little forgetful, but she's easy. I love her. She's adorable. Well, then one day I had to stay over and work a double because the person wasn't able to come in for the second shift, or 3 to 11. And at 4 o'clock, my sweet little Southern belle turned into, Dr. Hyde. And she cussed up and down, I mean, like a sailor. She threw stuff. She peed in the potted plants, literally pants down, squatted, peed in the potted plants. Oh my gosh. I mean, how that is not what I have on my shift. What is this? Yeah. Well, she had sundowners. So sundowners causes an abrupt personality change toward the evening, late afternoon and evening. And you can have Miss Southern Belle during the day, tea at 4. She does her hair and makeup. And at, 5 o'clock at night, she turns into a raving monster. And you don't know, where did this person come from? It's sundowners. And it can be very, very challenging to work with sundowners patients because they generally don't respond to reason. The cause of sundowners is still a hotly debated topic, whether it's a chemical imbalance, whether it's a disruption in circadian rhythm, whether the cause is still very hotly debated. Nobody's really settled on it yet. But what we have to learn is, how do we deal with these abrupt personality changes? And a lot of times distraction is your best bet. So when I worked in dementia, I had a stack of magazines, women's magazines. I love these things because they could buy me a little bit of time. If I had to go to the nurse's station and chart something, and I've got a sundowners patient that's just not cooperating, I can hand them a magazine if they're able to. Everybody has a different level of ability. Remember that. But most of them, I could hand them this magazine if it was a lady, and say, I've lost my teddy bear. It's somewhere in here. Can you find it for me? And a lot of times they'll flip because, flipping through magazines was a very normal part of their existence. So they'd flip the pages, and there's always a snuggle ad. Every women's magazine has a snuggle ad that has a teddy bear. So I knew I could buy myself some time getting them to look for the teddy bear. And, it worked quite often. So distraction is a great way of dealing with if you need to buy yourself some time. Now, men, they won't do that. You will not get a man to flip through a magazine if they have dementia. It's just not going to happen. Men are much more tactile, much more physical. So for men, I had a box, like a clear acrylic shoe box full of uncooked rice, not cooked. Don't do cooked. That's mushy and icky. Uncooked rice. And I use jasmine rice because it has a nice soothing aroma to it. But inside there, I would put marbles. Again, this is playing on a memory that they would have from early childhood. And I would put marbles, or sometimes nuts and bolts, the larger nuts and bolts. And I would ask them, can you find the things in here that they're all scattered? And I would pick up a marble. I'm looking for these. Can you find them? And very tactile. They'll work with, picking out those items. So distraction is a great way to work with dementia patients. but you've got to be creative about it. Does that make sense? Sundowners can be so difficult to work with, though, because they can get combative. So if you're working with combative patients, going in aggressive will never work out for you. A lot of CNAs think, well, if I show strength, they'll back down. Most of the time, if you show strength, if you go in aggressively, they're going to take it as a threat and they ramp up. So the best thing to do, never approach from behind. They need to see you coming. Remember that they don't know where they are. They don't know who they are. They don't know who's around them that they can trust. They are afraid of everything. Everything you do is going to be seen as a threat. If you approach from the back or the side and they don't see you, and then all of a sudden you touch them, can you imagine how threatening that would be? That's right. That's exactly what they do. They hit first and ask questions later. So you always want, if somebody's in crisis, in dementia crisis, you always want to approach from the front slowly, making eye contact so they know you're coming. Make sure you have an open body posture. Walk slowly. If I walk very quickly towards somebody, they're automatically going to back up because they see me as a threat. They don't know what I'm doing, what's going on here. But if I approach very slowly, hi, Miss Jones, how are you today? It gives them an opportunity to engage with me and de-escalates the situation. So a lot of this is how you approach the patient. You also need to talk to them. I don't care if they don't understand what you're saying. Their understanding has no bearing on this. You need to talk to them. You need to explain what you're doing. And there's a lot of CNAs out there that think, well, the patient has dementia, I don't need to talk now. Well, if they have dementia, you actually need to talk more because we need to figure out a way of getting across to the patient what we are trying to do. And I see this a lot in facilities. It drives me insane. CNAs will go in at 2:00 in the morning to clean and turn a dementia patient. 2:00 in the morning. It is dark. That patient is not clothed. They're in bed. And a CNA will walk in very quickly, businesslike, because they got a lot to do. They'll pull the covers off, try to clean the patient up in the middle of the night in their personal areas and wonder why the patient starts to scream and become combative. You come into my room at 2:00 in the morning and pull my covers off and try to get into my personal areas, I'm going to scream and start hitting. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, why we don't put these two things together, I don't understand. They don't. They think about things from their point of view. I have to get this job done. I have to do this task. But we have to understand that that's a person on the other end of that task. So always stop to think about how this person is reacting to you. If you notice, I always lower the pitch of my voice, slow my speech, and I present a very calm demeanor. I do that when I'm out there working. What you see when I'm giving demonstrations is how I work with patients. And it's effective. It's very effective. So you need to start working on your own approach. Okay? Be aware of your own nonverbal body cues. Does that make sense? Now, chapter 6, that was on skills. We're covering that in class. So I'm not really going to go into chapter 6 too much unless you have a specific question. So let me get your scores for chapters 5 and 6. Okay. Kathleen. Very good. Madeline.
I got 85.
Thank you. Do you have 1 and 4? Okay. Samira. Sam Marie, do you have 4 for me? Thank you. Shelley.
85.95.
Thank you. Taylor. Nicole. Thank you. Hillary.
It's 106.85.
Thank you. Denise. Bree. Kathy Watson. Kathy Thurkill. Lance. Lance, do you have 1 and 3 for me? Thank you. Okay. All right. Did I call everybody? Everybody? Yes.
Are we going to be able to do a hand-on-hand practice with each other today?
Yes. You will have about a half hour today. On Wednesday, you're going to have about an hour. And next Monday, you'll have about an hour and a half. Everything we've learned up to this point. Everything we've learned. Yep. And we'll get there in just a little bit. Good morning, guys. We'll get there in just a little bit. All right. So let's do a brief review. This should only take about 10 minutes, but I want to review what we've learned so far because it was a weekend and you had a lot going on. And I want to make sure that we're all on the same page before we start shoving more in there. How do we know what to do with each patient? We follow the care plan, okay, that means that we can't take anything away and we can't add anything to. It's got to be exactly as written. While we're performing the skill, according to the care plan, we should be observing for what? Yeah, abnormalities, changes, pain, anything that makes us go, And what do we do with those observations? Report them to the nurse. Every skill starts with an opening, but what does every opening start with? A knock. I was reviewing some videos online, other videos online this weekend, and about half of them did not knock. That's a graded checkpoint. It's a graded checkpoint. It's important. But a lot of times, I mean, we get so busy, right? We've got this care plan, we've read it, we want to get started on our skill, but our mind is thinking about all the supplies, the steps. It's really easy to forget to knock and just enter. Every skill starts with the opening, every opening starts with a knock. Don't forget it. It is a graded checkpoint. How do we know we have the right patient? Okay, so we identify them by name. Can we use an ID band for the test? Are we going to use an ID band? No, because ID bands are not present in all settings. Remember, if the patient lives there, they don't need an ID band. They live there. It's our job to know them, not their job to know us. We have to introduce ourselves by name and title. Yeah, don't forget that. Don't just go and say, hey, I'm Patti. Oh, there's a funny story there. Because we are the #1 CNA resource online on YouTube, there are people that watch my videos over and over and over again, and they learn the lines. You know, it's just like any other movie, right? You watch it often enough, you learn the lines. Well, there are people that go in to take the test, and because they've heard it so much, they go, hi, Miss Jones, my name is Patti. Oh, I mean, yeah, so it is funny. Be careful to use your name. So what does that tell me, right? If you're in the testing center and you're using my name, not yours, that tells me that you did more watching than practicing, right? Don't take the lazy way out. Make sure you're practicing too. So once we've introduced ourselves by name and title, we have to describe what to the patient. Yeah, what we're doing. Insert name of skill here. Yeah, you're not describing the color of the walls or what they're going to have for lunch. We're describing what we're going to do. Once we do that, what do we have to get from them? Permission. And then once we get permission, we can close the curtain. Don't close the curtain before you get permission. That sends a signal to the patient that we don't care whether you agree or not. I'm doing this. So don't close that curtain until you get permission. Once you close the curtain, though, what do we want to do? What is that? Yeah, what is that curtain? Dirty. And then once you have clean hands, we can gather supplies. So now we have to have a place to put those supplies. And we're going to get a barrier which provides a clean area for your clean supplies. Only touch supplies with clean hands. So that means that we're going to wash our hands before we get our supplies. And again, this is a commonly missed step on the state exam. Because you have to learn the supplies. For every skill that we're going to do, we have to learn the supplies. And one of the skills that we're going to learn today is partial bed bath. There's a ton of supplies. You need a basin, you need soap, you need lotion, you need 4 washcloths, you need 2 towels, you need a privacy blanket, you need a barrier to put it on. There's a lot of supplies there. And if you're going to do that skill, your brain is thinking about all those supplies. And you may totally miss washing your hands because you're so focused on the supplies. Be careful. You can't touch those supplies until you've washed your hands. Okay. Don't let supplies touch your clothes or uniform. And when do we get the barrier? Before or after? Before we gather our supplies. How do we know when we're supposed to wear gloves? What are our 3 rules? Ooey gooey. Ooey gooey, or body fluids. Yeah. So if we're going to touch body fluids, personal skin, or non-intact skin, we need gloves. If we might touch any of those things, we need gloves. If we're absolutely sure that we're not going to touch any of those things, we don't need gloves for the skill, because you're going to wash your hands before and you're going to wash your hands after. So we don't need gloves for that. The first thing your gloves should touch is the patient, not supplies. So this happens a lot too. This is another commonly missed step on the state exam. You get your supplies, you put your gloves on, and then you put your toothpaste on your toothbrush. And now are those gloves clean? No. So we want to make sure that the first thing our gloves touch is the patient. Do all your prep work first. And then once we've done our skill, we have to pay attention to what our dirty gloves have touched. That's really important. You don't want to cross-contaminate in the environment. And then if you did wear gloves, you've got to remember how to remove them correctly. How do we do that? How do we remove gloves?
You gotta pinch it to the side.
Okay, so
You take off the glove. You put it underneath the glove and pull out.
very good. So pinch up, pull off, go under, pull off. All right. So anytime a patient's uncovered or undressed, we need we're going to use this today. This is, we have a skill we're going to use this for. Why do we use a privacy blanket? What are the 2 things that it does? Keeps them warm and keeps them private. Very good. When we put a privacy blanket on, should we just take the sheet all the way down and then put the blanket over them? From underneath. That's right. That way the patient always stays covered. We're going to do the same thing in reverse at the end. We're going to pull the sheet over and take the blanket out under. So the patient's always covered by something. Good. What can we not do with that blanket? Snap it or shake it. Yeah. Yeah. And if you're going to use privacy blanket, make sure that when you remove it, make sure that you don't have your dirty gloves on. Remember that sheet is going to go right up next to their face. And if you're touching that sheet with dirty gloves, and that's going to be right here next to their face, not so good. So we're going to take our gloves off before we pull that sheet up. So we've already talked about linens cannot touch your uniform, but what else can't they touch? The floor. So clean linens can't touch the floor, dirty linens can't touch the floor, they just can't touch the floor. So if they can't touch the floor, that means that when we take linens off of the bed, what do we have to do to keep the trailing edges secure?
So you roll it
You
up.
want to roll them up. Yep. Very good. All right. Clean rolls.
Towards you. And dirty goes away.
Very good. Good job. Clean rolls towards you, dirty rolls away.
I know.
Good job. What do we do with unused items? What if we took too many washcloths or too many towels or, yep, they go into dirty linen. All right. What aren't you going to have in all settings as far as safety goes? Side rails. We do not have side rails in all settings. That means that we cannot rely on side rails as a safety option. If we can't rely on side rails, that means the patient must be where in the bed at all times? In the middle, whether they're on their back, on their side, doesn't matter. They need to be in the middle of the bed at all times. But if we're going to roll them toward the middle, we have to scoot them toward us first. That way, after the roll, they're in the middle. But which way do we roll somebody? Should we be behind their behind? That's right. We will always remain behind their behind. Washing rolls. What can you not add to the water? Soap, because you need water for rinsing. If we're going to get water for patient use, remember, we've had to do our whole opening. Knock, knock, knock. Hi, Miss Jones. My name is Patty. I'm your CNA today. I'm here to wash something. Is that okay? I'm going to go close curtain, wash hands. Now you've got clean hands. You got all your supplies. You got a barrier first. You got your basin, your soap, your lotion, your washcloths, your towels. You put it all out on the table. That's great. And now you've got to get water in the basin. But all you've touched so far are clean items. So can you touch that faucet with your hands? What do you need? Yeah, absolutely. And then you're going to check the water. Where are you going to check the water at? Yeah, so inner wrist or even down by the elbow. This area is pretty good right here. But just because you think it's comfortable. Okay, very good. So we always have to make sure that they check the water too. And that is a heavily graded checkpoint, heavily weighted checkpoint. We're going to learn about the leaves method. So I'm going to keep that off to the side for a minute. Whatever we wash, we
Rinse.
yeah. So whatever we wash, we rinse. Whatever we rinse, we dry. Yep. And don't get your surface wet. Make sure if water drips onto the floor, address it. If water drips onto the sheet, address it. Don't leave the patient in a wet environment. So you could say the sheets are wet, I would change them before leaving the patient. The floor is wet, I'm going to get a paper towel to dry it before, during my closing. You want to address it. Don't just leave it thinking those evaluators didn't see it. These evaluators have got tons of experience doing what they do. There isn't a thing you're going to do that they aren't going to see. They're very good at their jobs. If we're going to use lotion, what do we have to do before we put it on? Warm it up. And then what do we do after we put it on? Okay, wipe off the excess. We clean our basins same way all the time. We're going to dump it where it normally goes. If it's a body fluid that normally goes in the toilet, that's where we're going to put it. If it's something that normally goes in the sink, that's where we're going to put it. If it's just bathing water, sink is fine. No problem. But once we've dumped our basin, we're going to rinse it out. And then we're going to set that basin down. When we go to pick it up, what do we need? Paper towels. And then you're going to use a paper towel to dry the Yeah, inside, and then a paper towel dry the outside, and then we need one more for the drawer. Yep, for the drawer. Along the way, you can gather up your soap and lotion and things like that, you know, put it in the basin and put it in the drawer. But you want to make sure that you open that drawer with a paper towel. Good. Questions? Then you'll get rid of all your paper towels. So stock and paper towels, guys. We use a lot. And then every skill ends the same way. There's 4 C's that we don't care about the order. What are those 4 C's? Where I turn this off? What are the 4 C's? Clean environment, comfort, call light, curtain. Those 4, we do not care about the order. Just has to be done. Comfort, curtain, call light, clean. However you want to remember it in your head, that's the way I use it. Comfort, curtain, call light, clean, because it just kind of flows. Comfort, curtain, call light, clean. So however you wanted to remember it, but you have to get all 4 of those addressed. Now, in addition, you want to make sure the bed is in the low position. That's safety. You want to make sure that we've offered a magazine, because that's part of comfort. But once you get all of that done, then you're going to go clean your hands. Now, what happens after you clean your hands? What do you do? Okay, so you can't go back to the patient, but if it's a documentation skill, you're going to document. What would you do after you documented? Wash your hands again. Yeah, so documentation requires 2 hand washings at the end. Once before you pick up your pen, and then after you've used your pen. Good? Questions?
Comfort, call light, clean, what was the last C?
Curtain. Comfort, curtain, call light, clean. All right. Well, we've just reviewed the principles, but we're not done yet. We have learned 10 skills. So let's review those skills. So during mouth care, if you are going to be performing mouth care on a patient that's laying in bed, what position do they need to be in? Fully upright. What are we going to do to the clothing the patient is wearing to prevent toothpaste? Cover it up. Yeah, protect it. So towel, something. Yeah, washcloth, paper towel. I don't care what you use. The test doesn't care what you use. Just make sure that clothing is covered. You want to brush all surfaces and the tongue. Anytime we're putting toothpaste on anything, you've got to wet it first. Remember that. Because we're going to learn denture care today. So this is all going to be part of denture care as well. So we are going to wet a toothbrush before we put the toothpaste on it. And then anytime that we're brushing, we're going to let the patient rinse and spit. Guys, this step right here, rinsing and spitting, it's funny, but this is one of the most forgotten steps. Now, I don't know how, because if you just look at the patient, you would see they have foam all over their mouth. But it's funny, this is skipped a lot by students. So it brings the point to attention that during the test, try not to focus so much on you and focus more on the patient. Take the time to look at the patient. And then we should always leave the patient's mouth and clothing dry. So that's mouth care. We're going to learn denture care today, which is mouth care with an extra step. So you're going to see this again. We also learned dressing a resident. So we're always going to ask our patient what they want to wear. And if it's something really funky that doesn't go together, what are you going to do? But what if they insist? No problem. All right. So should we get the clothing before or after we undress them? Before, that's right. If we're going to lift an extremity, do we lift from above or below? Below. USA first. What does it stand for? Undress. Yep, that's good. Undress, strong arm first. Very good. Very good. And then how do we dress the patient? Weak. Yep, weak arm first. So undress strong arm first, dress weak arm first. Don't overextend or force movement. That's important. Yeah, just think of her foot, right? Should not go around. You want to adjust the clothing. So make sure all the snaps are snapped right, or the buttons are buttoned right, or, just make sure they look good. Always leave your patient looking better than you found them. Yeah. Where do you place all of your dirty stuff? In the hamper or the basket. Should we put it on the floor? No. And for this skill, where should the call light be at the end of the skill? In the stronger arm, not the weaker one, the stronger arm. All right, how about pulse? We're always going to support the, yeah. Pulses are always reported over what time period? 1 minute. Even though you may count for 15 seconds, you would have to multiply that by 4 to get your minute reading, because pulses are always reported over 1 minute. But not everybody can have a 15-second pulse check. Some people need that full minute count. How do we know which is which? Care plan. What's our normal values for pulse? 60 to 100. Should you use the flat areas of your finger? What should you use? Tips. They're more sensitive. What shouldn't you use to take a pulse? Your thumb. Yeah. So the radial pulse is it at the top or the bottom of the thumb side of the wrist? So where's my radial pulse? Is it up here by my thumb, or is it down here by my pinky? Top. It's the top side of the wrist. How does the evaluator know when you start counting and when you stop counting? You got to say it, start and stop. And how many evaluators do we have to count with in Florida? Yeah, we're lucky. We get to do this twice. And then what is the very last step you have to do if we counted something? Yeah, document it. Don't forget that. Don't forget. Hand and nail care. This is a washing skill. That's easy, right? Whatever we wash, whatever we rinse, we dry, right? So hand and nail care, we already know what to do here. We're going to support that wrist and arm at all times when we're moving it. We're not just going to pick it up, and throw it around. You want to support it at all times. We want to soak that hand in water. And where are we going to put it when we take it out of the basin? On a towel. Which edge of the orange stick do we use to clean under the nails? The what? Flat end, not the pointy end. Yeah. And what are we going to do between nails? So we're going to scoop. Yeah, you want to wipe it off on that towel between nails. When we use an emery board, what we file in, do we back and forth? One direction toward the middle. And then we apply lotion first or last? Last. Very last thing we do. All right. How about making an occupied bed? We learned this one too. You guys remember this one?
Yes.
My favorite skill. Where should the patient be at all times? In the middle. But that sounds an awful lot like scoot and roll, doesn't it? We've heard this, right? Clean rolls toward and dirty rolls away. That happens here too. We remain behind the patients. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't get, they're going to be on their side in the middle of the bed. when we're changing the bottom sheet. It gives them the smallest footprint possible. What don't we want out of the patient?
Oh,
Wrinkles. Why? Bed sores. We have to make hospital corners. We learned how to do that in class. We're going to loosen the sheet over their feet, and we replace the pillowcase with the opening facing away from the door.
what is that?
Because there's a lot of people walking up and down the hallway, staff, other patients, visitors, outside vendors.
It's a warm, moist area, so it's gonna cause bacteria and infections.
Right. So when you've got all of those germs up and down the hallway, because we all carry our germs with us, we're probably going to be breathing them in and out. Well, any pathogens that can travel on air currents, the opening of the pillowcase provides an area for them to get into, which is protected. Now, we tend to drool when we sleep. So now we've got warm, dark, moist. We just don't want any pathogens on the pillow. Okay. So respirations, they're always reported over what time period? 1 minute. Even if you may be counting for 15 seconds and multiplying by 4, you still have to report it, do that multiplication to report it over 1 minute. But not all patients can have that 15-second count. How do we know who's who? Care plan. What's our normal value for respirations? 12 to 20. 12 to 20. What can't you tell the patient? Yeah, that you're counting their breathing. Why? Yeah, that it messes up their breathing. They breathe fast or they quit. Not for long, but they will quit. How do the evaluators know when you start and stop counting?
You have to say start, stop.
And how do you count a full cycle? Is it just the ins or just the outs, or in and out together makes one full cycle? All right. And this is documentation skills. So what's the very last thing we have to do? Yeah. Wash your hands and then chart. Yeah. And then wash your hands again. Sideline position. What's that?
I was so proud. I did so many of these things.
Good.
Cool, yeah.
Very good. Very good.
I'm an over nurser, by the way. I'm obsessed. I'll lighten up.
That's
I'm
because
sure
you have
over
one
time-
patient.
Over time, I'm sure.
Yeah. All right. So if you're going to turn a patient onto their side, you have to have them scoot
Towards you.
toward you and then roll away so that you remain behind. They're behind. All right. So the way that we position this patient for turning, there's 4 steps to it. Furthest arm goes up, closest arm goes, closest knee is bent and the foot goes flat on the bed, furthest knee is angled. Yep. So remember these 4 steps. If you can get these 4 steps, turning a patient becomes easy. Farthest arm up, closest arm crosses, closest knee bent, furthest knee angled.
It's really hard. I did something wrong.
If you try to follow that,
Forgot my.
oh yeah, if you
No.
follow that,
Uh-huh.
and this is one of the things that you really kind of have to learn 100, because you're going to use this like a lot in your career. So farthest arm up, closest arm crosses, closest knee bent, furthest knee angled. If you can get those 4 steps down, turning a patient becomes a breeze.
Am I?
Probably.
What if they're like the one little girl, she has really bad scoliosis and everything, so how she lays is very, she looks like a C, like a C.
Right.
Would that, if I were to do that would that help, like, work for her?
So remember that this is general.
Okay, so different. Everybody's different. Yeah.
Right. So in a case like that, where we've got a spinal deformity and we're not working with a normally provisioned human. Okay. So she's got this curvature. You would have to work with a nurse to find out the best way to support that patient. So this is general, and then the care plan addresses specific. That's a great question. Great question.
Yes.
In most cases, yeah, it's probably pretty challenging. But in most cases, with that kind of a situation, you're going to use pillows in different places.
Yeah.
And you're going to position her a little bit differently for the turn.
Thank you.
So we had a patient with a condition, a pediatric patient with a condition called osteogenesis imperfecta. Boy, isn't that a mouthful, right? But this makes the bones super brittle. So just touching somebody can break their bones. And we have to turn them, because if we don't turn them, what are they at risk for? Yeah, so we have to turn them. So turning somebody with this kind of condition becomes super, super difficult, because you've got to make sure that you're not causing more injury than, not turning them would cause.
Yeah.
So we actually had a very special procedure that we used for this patient with a sling. So we weren't handling their body directly with our hands. So it was a special sling that kind of molded to this patient that we were able to use to turn them over. So that would be those instructions would be reflected on the patient's care plan. Yeah. Okay. All right. So after we get the patient rolled onto their side, we want to, in the middle of the bed, remember patients always have to be in the middle, right? We're going to use some pillows to prop them there. We're going to use 3 pillows. Where do those pillows go? Behind the back in a roll. Okay. Between their legs, specifically between the knees and ankles. Where does the 3rd pillow go? Under their top arm. And then there's already 1 pillow on the bed that we have to address, and that's the one under their head. That pillow should be under the head and neck, not under the shoulders. So make sure you address it. Where should their bottom arm be? We've supported the top arm with a pillow, but where should their bottom arm be? Underneath that pillow, not hanging off the bed. Address that. Because if an arm is hanging off the bed and somebody walks by or a piece of equipment rolls by, you can cause injury. Good. All right. Foot care, a whole lot like hand and nail care, just lower on the floor, right? So we're going to support the foot when moving it from basin in and out of the basin. Where do we put the foot while we're cleaning it? On a towel. So just like hand care. You're going to wash, rinse, and dry everywhere. But what don't we want to do between the toes? Put lotion, icky, right? Squishy, athlete's foot, no lotion between the toes. But while we're there, we're not really there to clean. We're going to clean because that's what the skill tells us to do, but that's not really why we're there. What are we there to do? Look. So during the test, what should you, how does the evaluator know you're looking? Tell them. You got to say it. I'm looking at all surfaces, or I don't see any abnormalities, or no red areas noted. I don't care what you say. Hey, evaluator, I'm looking. Whatever you need to do, you've got to let them know that you understand this is why you're doing the skill. It's not the cleaning. Cleaning gives us a reason to be there, but inspection is why we're there. Bare feet can't be on the floor. So we have to make sure we have a barrier there to put those bare feet on. And after we are all done, we're going to replace the sock. removing any wrinkles. Remember, wrinkles are bad. That's why we have Botox, right? Wrinkles are bad. And then we're going to apply and secure the shoe over the sock. So the patient's shoe gets put back on. Assisting with a bedpan. Remember, bedpans are a last resort. We try to go through every option before we get to bedpan. But if we have to use them, what are we going to put under the patient before we put the bedpan on the bed? Yep, a chucks or a barrier. Then we put the bedpan on top of that. Now you've got butt juice gloves on you. So what do you have to do before you can put the head of the bed up? Take the gloves off. Yeah, you can wash your hands. There's no problem with that. But for this skill, for the test, you don't have any other patients. Yeah, one patient in your life. That's it. So you're not leaving. In a clinical setting, you're not staying. We want to give them some privacy. But for the test, you're not leaving. So you don't have to wash your hands. You can if you want to. It's fine. Buy yourself some time. We're just going to step on the other side of the curtain and wait. Once we come back in, though, once the patient says, I'm done, we're going to put the head of the bed back down, and then we got to take that bedpan out. What do we need before we touch that bedpan? Gloves. Yeah, there's body fluids in there. Pretend for the test, but still body fluids in there. So make sure that you have gloves on. But when you take that bedpan out, you want to wrap the chucks over the bedpan. So you're going to take it all out at one time. You can't carry an open container of urine through a room. Ick. If you trip on something, your face is going face first into that bedpan. So we have to cover it. It's also a privacy issue. Nobody needs to see what's in that thing. So we're going to use the chucks, take it at the same time, cover that bedpan, and take it to the bathroom. Now, where should that bedpan be dumped?
In the toilet.
In the toilet. Absolutely. It's a body fluid. It goes in the toilet. It's where we're going to put it. And then we're going to rinse the bedpan. Where does the rinse water go? Toilet as well. And then we're going to dry it, store it, same way we do everything else. But our patient wiped themselves. We know that because care plan said they could. They've wiped themselves. So now when we're all done with the skill and we know they've wiped themselves, before we hand them lunch, what should we give them? Yes, they have to have a hand wipe to wipe their hands off at the end of this skill. Super important.
I understand the baby powder.
Yeah. Helpful, isn't it?
Well, I didn't have any, so I understand the secret, ingredient.
Yeah. Yeah. It is very, very nice when you're able to use it. But she had a shoulder,
Shoulder.
so she has an incision. No baby powder allowed.
Sure would have been nice.
Yes, it would have been nice.
For all that.
All right, so we just reviewed every skill and every principle that we've covered up until this point. We're going to build on those. So everything I'm going to show you today is going to have something to do with each one of those principles or skills that we've learned previously. All right, you guys ready? Go to page 55 in your book. This is the White Skills book, this book right here. Spiral book. How do we know what to do with each patient?
You read the clip.
All right, so our care plan for this skill tells us to provide the following range of motion exercise to the patient's right elbow and right wrist. Flexion, extension. Provide 3 repetitions of each exercise. The resident is not able to help with the exercises. If you look at the bottom of the page, you'll see test-specific information. Test says someone with your level of experience should be able to do this skill within 4 minutes. You're doing 2 exercises, 3 times each. They give you 4 minutes. That is a long time to do these skills. It is going to be done on a testing student. That means you may be the patient for this skill. That patient's going to be positioned in bed, and charting is not required for this one. But let's review a little bit about range of motion. So if you remember, there were 3 exercises we learned. Flexion extension, which was an up-down motion. Abduction, adduction, which is a side-to-side motion. And rotation, which is an around motion. If you go back and look at that care plan, it just tells us to do flexion extension, which is up, down. We're going to do flexion extension of the elbow. Looks like this. We're going to do flexion extension of the wrist. Looks like this. If you get an elbow to do anything other than this, you broke it. Elbow is a hinge joint. It only goes one way. That's it. If you get an elbow to do anything else, you broke it, which means you get to buy it. Now, wrist can go in all different directions. You can have a wrist go up and down, sure, but you can also have a wrist go side to side, and you can even have a wrist go around to wave that magic wand. So your wrist can move in all different directions, but our care plan was very specific. It just said flexion extension. So that's all we're doing. Do not do extra exercises thinking you're going to get bonus points. You would actually get docked points because you're not following the care plan. So to remind you some things about range of motion, we always lift from below. We always return to start. We're going to support at 2 joints, and we're going to monitor for pain. Good. So here are our test-specific checkpoints that we need to pay attention to for this skill. We're going to lift extremities from below with a flat palm. We're 2 points of support. We're going to move slowly and smoothly. Return all the way to the start position. Flexion extension is up, down. Adduction, adduction is side to side. Rotation is around. We already know all of this. So this skill becomes super, super easy to do. I'm going to need a volunteer, somebody to go lay down in that bed for me. Yeah, I got to work in the day.
Good night.
All right. So if you read the care plan, it says to perform the exercise of the resident's right elbow and wrist. Now that's important because there we go. That's important because if I do the left side by accident, then that's going to cause me to fail the exam because I didn't follow the care plan. I don't know what's going on with his left arm. There's a reason we can't do this skill on the left side. So we need to be really, really careful to follow that care plan 100%. All right, so here we go. Hi, Mr. Jones. My name is Patty. I'm your CNA today. How are you?
Good, yourself?
Wonderful. I need to do some exercises on your right elbow and wrist. Is that okay? Okay, I'm going to close your curtain. Let me go wash my hands and I'll be right back. This is my second skill, so I'm washing my hands. My hands are clean. All right, Mr. Jones, I'm going to do all the work here. All you have to do is let me know if there's any pain or discomfort as we do this. Now, the bed is a little bit low. Beds are low in a clinical setting. I can raise the bed up to a comfortable working height if I want to. There's no problem with that. But if I do, what do I have to remember to do? Put it back down. And remember that this skill isn't going to take any more than 4 minutes total. So it seems like a little excessive to raise a bed up and then have to turn around and put it right back down. You can if you want to. It's okay to raise the bed, or you could do it without raising the bed. So the first thing I'm going to do is bring your arm up and back down like you're making a muscle. So we're going to turn your hand over, palm up. We're going to go up and all the way back to start. Feel okay? Any pain? Up and all the way back to start. That's 2. One more. Up and all the way back to start. Good. Now, if you notice, I'm supporting at the wrist, the elbow is being supported by the bed. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to work on your wrist. So I'm going to bring your arm up and we're going to bend the wrist forward and back like you're revving a motorcycle. Okay. So put your elbow on the bed, loose fist. We're going to go forward and back. Feel okay? Forward and back. That's 2. One more. Forward and back. Feel all right? All right. Is there anything else I can get for you while I'm here? Are you comfortable? Okay, here's your call light. If you need anything at all, let me know. Would you like a magazine before I go? Okay, let me see what I can find. Look around. The environment's clean. I've opened the curtain. Wash my hands. Think about the steps of my skill. Make any corrections. My skill is done. Thank you. And that's the entire skill. That's it. All right. Any questions on that one? Nope. All right. So now we're going to get into dentures. Let's go to page 68 in your white book. What do you think you should do if you go in to do a skill on a patient and they say no? Like I've told you, you've got to get consent, right? So I go in, knock, knock, knock. Hi, Miss Jones. My name is Patty. I'm your CNA today. I need to whatever. Is that okay? And she says no. What do I do?
Let the nurse go.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you may want to find out why. Nicely, of course, not, well, why not? I got things to do. We don't want to be mean. Yeah. Could I ask, why is this not a good time for you? Are you having some pain? Anything going on that we need to know about? It may be that this is just not fitting into their schedule. Well, that's something that we can address. You know, we can say, you know, can I come back after your family visits to do foot care? Is that okay? And then we just let the nurse know, hey, I went in to do foot care. His family's coming. I'm going to do it after. That way, if something happened, and this is why it's important to do that. Let's say that you're working an 8-hour shift. Let's go 7 to 3. Okay. And you're told to do foot care on Mr. Hodgkins or whatever. And you go in and he says, no, my family's coming. I don't want any, just go away. I want to visit with my family. No problem. If you don't go tell the nurse, you just kind of keep it in the back of your mind. You know, I got to go do foot care after his family leaves. You might make a little note on your report sheet. That's fine. But the nurse doesn't know. And you have a family emergency and you have to leave the facility quickly. If the nurse doesn't know that that task hasn't been done, there's no way for her to assign it to somebody else. Does that make sense? This is why you really need to stay in communication with your nurse so they know what still needs to be done if you haven't gotten to it yet. Okay. All right, so let's look at the care plan on page 68. This is a long care plan, guys. It says a resident with dentures is sitting at an overbed table with their dentures in a denture cup. Notice it's not in their mouth. The dentures are in a denture cup. The resident's denture needs to be brushed with toothpaste, and the resident needs mouth care. The denture is stored in a denture cup after cleaning. So it's telling you what to do with this denture. You're not going to hand it to the patient to put back in their mouth. It's going to start out in a cup. It's going to end in a cup. The resident is not able to provide their own mouth or denture care. Now, the reason this is so specific, look at the bottom of the page. It's a long skill. It's going to take somebody with your level of experience up to 13 minutes to do that skill. That's a long skill, guys. But if you notice, this is done on a real live testing human. So that means that one of you guys might be a patient for denture care and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I have no dentures. That's why the dentures start out in a cup. You go clean them, and then they're put into a cup for use later. You're not actively going to be trying to shove some fake teeth in somebody's mouth.
Is that like a thing? Like, what if the patient can't put the dentures?
We're going to talk about that. Yep, we're going to talk about that. All right, so first thing we need to understand, there's 3 different types of dentures. There's full plates, which is what we tend to think about when we think about dentures, full plates. Then there's partials. Partials look like full plates, but there's cutouts that go around their remaining teeth. So if you've got healthy teeth, we're not going to pull your healthy teeth just to give you some fake ones. We're going to make the prosthetic teeth or the replacement teeth fit around the healthy teeth you still have. And then there's bridges, which are little tiny pieces of dentures that just are supposed to take the place of 1 or 2 teeth locally. Okay, so 3 different, we clean them all the same, but there's 3 different types. Bridges sometimes are permanently attached. Dentures can now be permanently attached as implants, but there's different types of dentures. Our patient for this skill is going to be sitting in a chair at the side of the bed. Their dentures are going to be in a denture cup, sitting there waiting for us. We're going to take the dentures to the sink, wash our hands, get all of our other supplies, go clean the dentures, and then come back and do mouth care on the patient. Okay, good. Questions? All right, there's 2 different types of denture care. There's fizzy tablets, where you put the dentures into a cup, put a couple fizzy tablets in and leave them for a little while or overnight, and then you take them out, rinse them off, and brush off any food particles. That's the easy way. We like that way. And honestly, that's better for the dentures in most cases because toothpaste is abrasive. And when you use toothpaste to clean the denture material, it can cause these little micro cracks to form. And what do we know about warm, dark, moist places? Yeah, no good, right? So this is actually preferred by the people that make dentures. But how do we know which one to use, whether it's fizzy tablets or toothpaste? Our care plan very clearly says we're going to use toothpaste. Good? Make sense? All right. So here's the thing about dentures. Patients have to be able to put them in and take them out. If the patient cannot put them in or take them out, we don't give them their dentures. We puree their food, chop it up really fine so that they don't have to chew. Now, there's 2 reasons for this. If I have dentures in my mouth and I was trying to take them out, I have to put my fingertips way back here in the very back and pop them up and forward, like toward the back. Now, my fingers will never put enough leverage on my lower jaw because of my positioning. But if I were to try to take your dentures out and I put my fingers in the very back of your mouth, in order to pop my fingertips up, my knuckles have to press down for leverage. They're pressing on your lower jaw. You can dislocate somebody's lower jaw by putting pressure on the bottom. So we don't want to do that. Now, putting in is just as problematic. When you put dentures in somebody's mouth, you're going to put them in and then you kind of have to push them up into place a little bit. Well, the patient will subconsciously, they're not really even aware of it, they're going to bite down to seat those dentures. And where are your fingers? Yeah. So the risk there of getting bit, pretty high. And they don't mean to. It's not, it's not a nefarious act on their part. It's more, you're just in the wrong place at the wrong time. So patients have to be able to take their own dentures out or put them in. Okay, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, good. We're going to use two new supplies for this skill. We're going to use a denture brush that's two-sided. That denture brush has, let me show you. This is a denture brush. It's two-sided. It has a narrow part here that fits in the channel of the dentures. You know, the part that goes over the gums. This looks like a toothbrush. It washes the teeth part of the dentures. So we have two sides because they do two different jobs. This is a denture brush. Pass that around. And then this is a toothette. You can brush gums with a soft toothbrush. That's fine. You want to use a toothbrush with toothpaste on the mouth, that's fine. You can do that. But this is actually better. The reason is that most dentures are held in by denture paste. Denture paste is stringy, gummy, kind of solid. Yeah. So let me see that real quick so I can pass it over here. There you go. Away and then turn it. Now you've got another area and then turn it. Now you've got another area. So this is actually a better way of cleaning the inside of the mouth because it's a solid surface and it's going to remove that denture paste a little bit more effectively. It's also disposable because we really don't want to be cleaning that denture brush full of gummy paste. That's a toothette. It's also called an oral swab. You'll hear it called both names, oral swab. So there's a couple things that we need to know in order to do this skill properly. When we're going to clean the dentures at the sink, we want to put a washcloth in the bottom of the sink because if we drop those dentures, remember, they're covered in toothpaste, they're covered in saliva, they're slippery little guys. So if we're, cleaning those dentures and they fall and they hit the bottom of the sink, they may actually break. So that's not a good thing. If you have a washcloth in the bottom of the sink, it provides a softer surface for them to land on. But even better, if you can get that washcloth over the drain. If you can get the washcloth over the drain, it causes the water to pool up. And that way the denture hits the water and then just slowly kind of sinks to the bottom. It doesn't hit a solid surface. So washcloth in the bottom of the sink is good. We want to use cool water for dentures, not hot. Cool. The reason for this is that heat coagulates proteins. That's a bunch of big words that just means that it makes protein stickier and harder to remove. Well, food has protein in it. Your saliva has protein in it. The denture paste has protein in it. You don't want to make this stuff harder to get off. Cool water. When we're all done cleaning, we're going to store it in clean water. Cool water. So that means that we're going to brush the dentures, both sides. We're going to rinse the dentures, both sides. Be careful not to drop it. You're going to take that cup, dump the water out, rinse it out, and fill it up with cool, clean water, put the dentures back in, and put the lid back on. But that cup is going to be wet. So you want to have a coaster, a paper towel underneath it when you put it on the table so it doesn't leave one of those rings on the surface of the furniture. Okay. To do mouth care, patient must be sitting fully upright. Well, we've heard that before on mouth care. We've also heard that we have to protect the clothing, brush all surfaces and the tongue. We have to wet all brushes before applying toothpaste. This is just like mouth care. This is mouth care. We're just using a toothette rather than a toothbrush. So guys, if you notice, all of this we've already seen before. We only have 3 new steps here. Questions?
Did you know that slide? Just write that down.
Sure. It's in your book though. All of the steps are on page 68. I got a ton of learning materials I've created. Questions? I'm going to show you this skill. I'm going to show you the video for this skill because it has good close-ups at the sink so you can see the actual cleaning of the dentures more effectively. Those of you at home, you can watch this skill on our website as well. Denture Care, because it's going to be small on your screen. Okay, remember the bottom of the page said it gives you up to 13 minutes to do this skill. It takes me 8. And that's with the whole music intro and the whole credits at the end. So it does not take as much time as they give you. I mean, they really are very generous on their times, guys. Don't rush. Can you hit the first 2 lights for me, please?
Hello.
Hi, Mr. Jones. My name is Patty. I'm your CNA today. How are you?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Wonderful. I need to do denture care on you. Is that okay?
Yes.
I'm going to take your dentures to the sink. I'm going to close the privacy curtain and wash my hands. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Jones. I'm going to place a barrier on the table so we have a clean area to place the clean supplies. And then I'll gather the supplies. We'll need a cup of water, a toothpick, a denture brush, toothpaste, a basin, a washcloth and a towel, and 2 sets of gloves. Okay, we're going to get the denture brush ready for use, so I'll wet it and apply a little bit of toothpaste to both sides. We'll allow the basin to hold that denture brush until we're ready to use it. I'll be right back, Mr. Jones. I'm going to go clean your dentures.
Okay.
That's okay. Good morning. I didn't. I'm just checking.
Okay, Mr. Dennis, I'm just gonna set your dentures over here so that you have them if you need them later.
Okay.
I'll place the denture brush on the barrier and now we'll remove these gloves. We'll throw those away. Do you mind if I place a towel over your chest? Of course. This will help keep your clothing clean. We're gonna prepare for the mouth care portion of this skill. We'll take the toothette and wet it. Apply a little bit of toothpaste to one area of the toothette and apply gloves. Okay, Mr. Dennis, I'm gonna brush all surfaces of your teeth now. So in a moment, I'll need you to open your mouth wide so that I can reach the back teeth.
Okay.
Okay, can you open your mouth? Thank you. I'm gonna brush the back on the bottom and on the top, both sides. Okay, can you bring your teeth together, please? Thank you very much. We're gonna throw the toothette away. And would you like to rinse? Good. Would you like another rinse?
Yes, please.
Another rinse?
No, thank you.
Okay. I'm gonna remove your towel and we'll place this in dirty linen. We'll throw away the disposables. And now I'm going to clean your basin. I'll be right back.
Okay.
I'll place the denture brush and the toothpaste in the basin. And open the drawer with a paper towel. Store the basin and other supplies. I'll remove the barrier from the table. And we'll throw this away as well. Now I can remove my gloves. Mr. Jones, are you comfortable?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I get you a magazine?
No, thank you.
Is there anything else that you need?
No, thank you.
Your call light's right there. If you should need anything, just let me know. I'm going to open your curtain and go wash my hands. After washing my hands, I'll think about the steps of my skill, make any corrections, and then tell the evaluator my skill is done. Can you grab that light for me, please? All right. Any questions on that? Any questions on denture care?
It looks so easy, don't you?
Sure. And it is because you already know the principles behind it. There's not much new to learn in that one. I mean, washcloth in the sink, use cool water, brush all surfaces and store it back in cool, clean water on a napkin. That's it.
So we use the toothette if they have no teeth and the gum, so it makes it. Is that
You
one?
can use toothpicks on teeth as well.
Okay, but like for the, is that really?
Yeah, toothpicks are actually, what their main purpose is to moisten the mouth of unconscious patients. But we repurpose them, or, we use them for, oral care of all sorts. Whether it's moistening a mouth, whether it's cleaning gums,
patients that have no teeth, or whether it's cleaning a mixture of gums and teeth
Okay,
for patients that have partials, you can use it for any of those.
okay, cause we have little kids that have some have teeth or no, so it's like,
Yeah, and again, you're gonna use your care, or, go by whatever the nurse is directing you. And with pediatrics, a lot of times we rely on the parents. We try to
Yeah.
keep their routines. So with kids, you may have one of those little nooks, the NUK, it's it's like a little round thing that has nubbies on it, that stimulates the gums. You may be using that.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? Not too bad, right? Not too bad. All right. So we are going to take our break early today because I need to, the next lecture that we have, Ambulate with the Gate Belt's a little bit longer. So, I'd rather get the break out of the way rather than putting you off until like 11:15 for break. So let's go ahead and come back in 15 minutes, 5 till.
No, full of this. She is a nut. She is. But I stand right on top of the medicine. Actually, the gate belt showed up today. So I just wanted to use that correctly. I'm telling you, everything that I've learned, I've been able to apply everything. And I was like, I know how to do this. So it was really, really freaking cool. Poor thing, she was my guinea pig and she was wasted.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm pretty sure I didn't hurt her.
Don't unhappy girls.
Girl, and I told her, I said, do you think you want to come off the medication today and maybe start switching over, because she does take another medication? She goes, mm-mm. And I'm like, okay. The nurse is coming today, they'll be there between 11 and it's been really tricky, really, to drive through mama and so much, I mean. It was a great doctor, they were done in like 2 hours, but once I realized what the hell they did to her.
She had the little lone star.
Yep, and when she's done with this, she has to do the other one. And she has a cage in her spine, and she has degenerative disc and bone. So she's been broken since she was 13.
24 hours.
we're all work in process.
Huh?
We're all work in process.
I'm telling you. All right, I'm gonna go make a phone call.
It's okay, Jill. Yeah. Yeah, so what happens, let me explain to you the process. Everybody has to go through the exact same process. Okay. So you're gonna go get your background check, you're going to submit your application. Okay. After you submit your application, if something shows up, you're gonna contact you. And I'm gonna ask you for what records. So you need to do your best, And they're gonna ask you for your side of the story. So you're gonna wanna type up your side of the story. And then they're gonna look at that, and they will either approve you for testing, if it's something that was, years ago, you think makes sense, whatever. They'll either approve you for testing, or they will invite you to meet the board of nursing at their next scheduled meeting. And that means that they want to get a sense of who you are. Remember that when you have a CNA certification, you are clear to go into grandma's house unsupervised. They just want to make sure that you're not going to grandma's. You can call, but they're not going to get any information. No, because to be. I don't know, I've never run into that. So I don't know. All I know is the process to tell you for testing. I'm sure you can get a background check, but I don't know how to go about it. Alright. Oh, yeah. Think of that. Yeah, everybody follows the same, process. And the reason that the process is the way it is because the board of nursing is not going to take a financial hit. Right. So that's why you apply, you pay your fee, and then they'll look at your, all of the circumstances now. So if you call up on the phone and say, hey, I got this thing, you know, I just need to know, am I gonna get here? They're not gonna tell you. They're gonna say, we don't have the records, we don't have the transfer, we don't have anything to work with. You know, we can't tell you that. You have to go through the process. Yeah, is it local? Is it local? Yeah, if you go to court, they should still have some records because the criminal history, as long as it was an adult, you know, if you were an adult, the criminal history is kept in perpetuity. It's always there. Always. So yeah, so it should be in that. It may be in archives and they take them a bit or two to get hands on it, but you're welcome. No, but you can watch the replay. Yeah, when we send out this afternoon, we'll send out the email and I'll have a link to the replay, the YouTube replay. Just watch the first hour, so. You okay, honey? Here you are. Very common. To be very honest, bathing with dry skin is one of the worst things you can do because soap dries the skin even further. Yeah, so what he really needs is, you know, just a damp rub, but lotion. But as we age, we don't need to bathe as frequently because the growths in our skin are reduced. It's really get thinner, lighter on it. It's not uncommon for the designer to, yeah, it's a lot of work. It is. It's not uncommon, but there be some underlying mental health issues like depression and loneliness and yeah, yeah. So I would, and I can't give you any help. I'm a little worried because I've been going up there for a couple of weeks. I love the sun. So is there, would be a financial help? No. I was, I don't know. Where do I seek help? Unfortunately, I can't give you any direction on that. Sitting one is this training for. That would be my recommendation. Bringing this stuff up and helping you person. Well, there's not that expensive. I think for three bedroom upstairs. People lives in the kitchen area. His living room. He uses an extra bedroom. He sleeps in the condo. He has many beds in there. Well, yes, but it's his own. Right. We have to be careful here too because quirks, personality quirks, not illegal. Not as long as it's not detrimental to him or anybody else where he chooses to sleep. That's it's for him. And sometimes sleeping in another climate, there may be a reason that he chooses to. Maybe it's helps him breathe better. Maybe it's more comfortable. Maybe it's less lonely. I mean, there may be some motivations there that nobody really knows to come up with. That's how he's solving his issue. It may be different from the way you would solve it, but that doesn't make it all. So we have to be a little bit sensitive to the fact that not everybody's going to look the way you expect them to. And Nina's right. She was in Switzerland. She contacted me because he's neighbors right now. They got things with the phone all the time. And my husband only heart scan and it's way more popular than the hospital. Doesn't really matter. I'm only nice. Unfortunately, names are very difficult for me. Any reports from some health agencies that cases of healing, crazy is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. As if you never it's your first time in this. I can't help it. If you're going to do this to yourself, I have a sister I can't just help you much. Yeah, it's hard. It's very difficult. But you have to be mindful of that. You're not like choice, yeah, it's very fun. And where we intervene as medical professionals may be different than where we intervene as family members. You know, as a family member, you have the freedom to say, you know, this is not healthy, you need to stop. Or as a medical person, you have the freedom to over out food and interference rights. He has the right to know. He has the right to live in children's future. There's nothing wrong with it. It's different. It's different than how you do it. Yeah. Maybe a first situation. That doesn't make it the wrong choice for him. Yeah, I kind of was right on the left. I appreciate what you know. Robert is good. I can't change. This is not the first time it's on your fingers. Never grew up wanting to. Even from too harsh to see. Would be like asking me to help me. I love it. I wanted to see them. I just see the fingers not normal. It could be, you're right, I think you're right, you just put it on the head. There could be some underlying mental illness pathology there, I don't know, I can't speculate. But, you know, that's the other thing that happened with mental illness. And not super treatment with mental illness. You know, I'm not sure if it's self-imminent thing. It's not a circumstance, it's a choice. That you figure out how to improve wellness. That's a choice thing. That it may not be the choice that you would make, or I would make, but you're free to make it. You know, that's the hard part for me. She's not one of my great children. She did that to like 10 bucks. It is. It is. And I want to win these kids. There we go.
We're hoping they're light number minutes. We're gonna ask the nurse, well, Kim's gonna ask the nurse. Yeah. Which she is. No. Oh, she's loving it. I'm not sure, we're gonna be turning the page here in a minute. We just did denture here. You guys always bring the best snacks. But Doritos are my favorite. Okay. The bag's not enough.
That's why I go for the Big Macs.
Oh.
Okay, fine.
In a minute, and you have to open them the other way, you didn't know that? That's where all the flavor is. You gotta flip them and open them.
I didn't think about that.
I learned that at bar.
That's smart.
Okay, so we're starting on.
All right, our next skill will start on page 46.
Oh, the wind touches the bird.
Oh, are you okay?
Oh.
Yeah, if you look in the top drawer of that 3-drawer cabinet, there should be one there. You're welcome. Oh, there you go. Welcome. Okay, so this skill on page 46, our care plan tells us to ambulate the resident at least 10 steps. Use a gait belt or transfer belt. Patient will be sitting in chair at side of bed with shoes on. So thankfully, they've already got their shoes on. We don't really have to, stop and put them on. They're already sitting in a chair at the side of the bed. They're ready to go. Patient is able to walk. Yay. but they need a little assistance to stand. Well, we can do that. So if you look at the bottom of the page, you'll see that this skill is going to take somebody with your level of experience 5 minutes or less. 5 minutes or less. This is a pretty quick skill. But it also is done on a live testing person. That means that you may be a patient for this skill. What that means is that you need to be you, not a 90-year-old version of you. It says the patient can walk. They just need a little assistance to stand. So don't turn this into an Academy Award, performance. But in order to understand this skill a little bit, we have to talk about energy conservation. So turn back in your book to page, oh, wait a minute, hold on. I'm sorry, no, it's not 46. Yeah, it is 46. Turn back to page 43. All right. So on page 43, we're talking about energy conservation. And this is actually a way more important topic than you think it is, because you have energy. Energy conservation becomes an issue when you don't have energy. And that's really, really hard for you to understand because you have energy. So have you ever seen a 2-year-old?
Yeah.
Cute guys. I love 2-year-olds. They're so full of curiosity and energy and a zest for life. They're wonderful, wonderful. Have you ever tried to explain to a 2-year-old why you don't have the energy they do? Do they ever get it? No, they just kind of shake their head and run off and, are active and wondering why, what's wrong with you? Oh boy. Yeah, so we unfortunately are just like the 2-year-old in this scenario. Just like a 2-year-old cannot understand why you don't have the energy to keep up with them, you cannot understand why an 80-year-old does not have the energy to keep up with you. You, for some reason, mistakenly assume that all the people you come into that encounter will have the same energy level you do, and that's not true. In fact, it peaks around 2. 2-year-olds will jump up and down for no reason at all. They just have excess energy. They will bounce it out. Awesome. When was the last time you jumped up and down for no reason? Yeah. Now, if I won the lottery, I would be jumping up and down, but I have a reason, I'm not getting rid of excess energy just because. I'm going to have a reason to get rid of that energy. So what we need to understand is 2-year-olds have so much energy that it literally bleeds over into everything they do. Lots of energy, but it doesn't stay that high. Let's go out to 12. 12-year-olds still have a ton of energy. But that 12-year-old does not have the same energy that they had when they were 2. Put a 12-year-old in charge of a 2-year-old for one afternoon. Who wins? Every day. So that means that you have lost energy in that time period. Now let's go out to 22. 22-year-olds still have tons of energy. They can go out shopping all day and then go out at night looking fabulous, right? Still tons of energy, but you don't have the same energy level you had when you were 12. Go out to 42 years old. 42-year-olds, they still shop till they drop, but that's at like 3 and we're not going out tonight. Okay. You've lost energy. 62-year-olds still have energy, but now we're putting our feet up before we make dinner at night. We're thinking about retirement because it's super hard. I don't have enough energy to keep up a work week all week long. and run my errands and clean my house and all the other stuff I have to do. I'm running low on energy. I don't have the same energy I had when I was in my 40s. Let's go out to 82. What do you think the energy is going to be like at 82? Yeah, very low, very low. Now, unfortunately, because we're on a different end of the spectrum, right? We're on the lower end or maybe the middle of the spectrum, and our older patients are way up here. We don't understand what this lack of energy is like. We can't get our heads around it. We think they've got our energy. And then we say things like this. Well, what does it matter? They have nothing to do and all day to do it. So let's think about what an older person has to do each day. So I'm not going to talk about work. They're retired. Maybe they're in a facility and all their cooking and cleaning is done for them. But what else do they have to do every day? What do you do that takes energy? Okay. 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 So getting out of bed, does that take energy? That takes like half of my energy every day. You know, half of it's just getting out of bed. All right. Going to the bathroom. That takes energy. A lot of energy, believe it or not. Showering takes a tremendous amount of energy. Things like eating. Have you ever been too tired to eat?
No.
Yeah.
Terrible way.
Okay. What about things like talking? Does talking take energy? Yeah, absolutely. Just sitting takes energy. If you've ever been too tired to talk, you'll know that takes energy too. So just daily activities. If we've only got this, if we're 82, we've only got this much energy to work with. That's it. And we have to go to the bathroom. We have to eat. We have to get showered and get dressed. We have to engage in social activities for our mental well-being. We have to take our medications. We've got to be in certain places at certain times. That's a lot of energy when you've only got this much to work with. Now, have you ever seen an older person get up out of a chair?
Yeah.
It looks like this. Okay, if I were to get up out of the chair, I'm just going to stand up, right? But that's not how it works with an older person. With an older person, they kind of have to do this rocking thing to get momentum, right? So they start to rock, and then they try to get up, and nope. So we're going to do it again. And then we're going to climb. Right? So how much energy did that take? A lot. Now think about how many times that patient has to get up out of a chair. All day long. Because they have to get up out of bed and they get into a chair. And then they got to get up and go to the bathroom. Then they have to get up and go get their shower. And then they have to get up and get dressed. And then they have to get up and go to breakfast. And then they have to get up from breakfast and go back to their room. And then they got to get up and go to activities. And then they have to get up and go back to bed for a nap. And then they have to get up and go to the bath. I mean, that's a lot of activity. And when it takes that much effort to get out of a chair, and they only have this, you can't go out and buy extra energy. I know energy drinks think you can, but that's an artificial. So the problem is that if you have a patient that has a decrease in strength, that always has to be offset by an increase in energy. Think of strength and energy as a seesaw. Whenever strength goes down, energy levels have to compensate. It requires more energy. So older patients or patients that are recovering from an illness or an injury, they have decreased strength, which means it's going to take more energy to offset that. Does that make sense? So it's pretty clear to see that by afternoon, they're probably going to run out of energy, which means that they may not have the energy to eat their meal tonight, or they may not have the energy to socialize with other people, which can affect their mental well-being, or they may not have the energy to shower, bathe, because they're on the night shower schedule. So there's a lot of problems that this can cause along the way. Does that make sense? Everybody with me? So if we can do little things throughout the day to help conserve that patient's energy, keep some of that energy in their bucket for use later, then they may be able to get through the day more effectively and have that meal at night, which will give them more energy the next day, or socialize, which improves their mental well-being, or, whatever the case may be, they have the energy to work with. That's where using a gait belt becomes so important, because if the patient is lacking in strength, they have to make up for it in effort. Well, we can actually give them some of that. We can loan them some of ours. And that's why we use a gait belt. Okay. Now, some people will try to lift a patient out of a chair by grabbing their arms. So they grab the arms and they try to pull. Well, when you pull from up here, you're only lifting this part of the body, the upper torso. And when you do that, that means that everything down here is going to trail behind. You're not lifting at their center of gravity. So that means you've got to hold tighter and pull harder, which risks what? Injury. So that's never a good option. We never lift somebody from the arms. Other people think, lifting from the middle, that sounds like a good idea, because now we're lifting at their center of gravity, and they'll grab their pants and lift them to a standing position. Anybody ever have a wedgie? This is a monster wedgie, and they move. Man, they move quick. But they're not moving because you're helping. They're moving because you're hurting. So we don't lift using pants. We don't lift using arms. We want a gait belt to make this effective. That way we're at the center of gravity, but we're not injuring them along the way. So I'm going to show you. Okay, so let's talk about a gait belt. This is a gait belt. It's a thin canvas belt. It has a buckle on one end. Oops. And it has a free end on the other. And it's a belt. That's it. Like any other article of clothing, it has a tag. The tag goes inside, just like every other article of clothing. This goes around the patient's waist, not yours. A lot of CNAs will carry this around their waist, and that's fine if you want to do that. But this for lifting goes around the patient's waist. So it doesn't matter whether the buckle faces this way or the buckle faces this way. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. But when you put this around the waist, you want to make sure that the belt is flat, not twisted over. It has to be flat. And when you put it around the waist, you don't want to slide it against the skin. So you're going to, take your hands and put them behind to hand off the two ends, or you can put it over, but hold on to that buckle so it doesn't, smack them upside the head, right? So once you get it around their waist, you're going to take the free end through the first guard by the alligator teeth. And then you're going to pull it so that it's snug. If this is too loose, when you go to stand the patient up, it goes underneath their breasts or underneath their arms, or they slide right out of it. We need it tight enough that it's going to stay where you put it. We get skinnier when we stand up. So when you put this on snug, when they're sitting, when they stand up, it's going to become loose. So make sure that it's snug. How do we know it's snug enough? you're going to fit 4 fingers flat between the belt and the patient. They need to hear that. 4 fingers flat. Okay, they need to hear that. Once you get the belt put in place and you checked it with 4 fingers flat, you're going to put the free end through the second guard to lock it in place. Now this little strip, when it's hanging down, it could get in your way. You can tuck it up in the belt to make sure that it's out of the way. To remove the belt, you're going to remove it from the second guard, and then you want to hold the free end out and take the buckle and slide it along the belt. And then you can remove it. When you remove it, don't slide it against the skin. You either take both your hands around or you loop up and over, holding on to the buckle. Good? Questions? When you put the gait belt on the patient and you check it 4 fingers flat, when you go to lift the patient, you want to hold on to the gait belt either on the sides or as far around the back as you can. And that gives you the best leverage to help them stand. Remember, it says that they can walk. They just need help standing. Okay, so sides or toward the back is best. Never from the front. If you pull a belt from the front, it causes all the weight of the patient to trail behind and it pushes them off balance. Good. Questions? Questions? Okay. All right. Let's go back up here. So we have a couple of rules that we've learned already. We learned that if the patient's feet hit the floor, we talk about their shoes. So for this skill, we're actually going to say, I see you have shoes on. Or are your shoes tied well? Or do your shoes fit appropriately? We're going to say something about their shoes. We're not going to say, hey, nice kicks. Okay, we're not admiring their shoes. We're making sure that the evaluators know that we understand shoes are safety. Okay, shoes are safety. Slipper socks are never enough, ever. We're going to put the gait belt on and we're going to check it with 4 fingers flat between the belt and the patient. And before we lift, the feet must be flat on the floor. Let me show you what I mean by that. Because, all right, guys at home, you're going to have a hard time seeing this. I'll back up as far as I can. I'm short, right? If I sit with my hips against the back of the chair, my feet do not touch the floor flat. I'm short. So I do this whole tiptoe thing. And I kind of tuck my feet up underneath the chair so that I can reach the floor. If you try to stand me up and I'm in this position, I'm going to tip forward because my feet are behind me. They're not just under me, they're behind me, and I'm on my toes. So before we lift a patient, we need to ask them to sit so their feet are flat on the floor in front of them. That means for me, I have to scoot forward and put my feet flat on the floor. If you don't do this step, if you just put the gait belt around the patient and you go to stand them up for the test, you will fail because it's putting the patient at risk. Good. Now, body mechanics are something else. So it used to be when I was going to lift somebody, we were taught way back that you stood toe to toe and knee to knee with your patient. That kept their feet from sliding out. But unfortunately, there's this physics principle. Anybody aware of physics? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can't break those laws. They're physics. Well, the physics principle is for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So my body weight being lifted forward is going to have the same impact on the person that's lifting me backwards. So that means that if you're lifting somebody that's 150 pounds and you're standing in front of them, that's 150 pounds of force that's causing you to go backwards. And your back is what has to absorb that. Doesn't take long before you end up with back injuries. But more importantly, that's going to cause you to go off balance. That's right. And you're not the only one falling. Absolutely. You're going to take your patient with you because you've got that gait belt. So this is not a good system. We do not stand toe to toe and knee to knee. We're going to use an oblique angle. So if you look at me here, if you look at the floor, I know it's kind of hard to see, but there's a line that goes right in front of my feet, and there's a line on each side of the chair. So I'm in a box. I can actually use these lines. I'm going to stand at the corner of the box. 1 foot in front of the patient's feet, 1 foot parallel to their body. Just like this. This foot is going to block their feet from moving forward. This foot is going to keep me at an oblique angle. So if I've got a patient sitting in the chair, 1 foot goes in front of their feet like this, blocking it from coming out. The other foot goes parallel to the chair. And then I'm going to bend at the knees, not the back. So I'm going to bend down at the knees, grab the patient's gait belt around the back. And on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, we're going to stand up. That keeps me very stable because their weight is not reacting on me. Good? Questions? When you have the patient stand, you want them to move as a unit, all together, one piece. So in order to make that work, if you just turn to page 45. If you look at the top picture, top corner of 45, you'll see that that patient is not moving as a unit. Those shoulders are backwards, those arms are kind of hanging. That will cause the patient to go off balance. It actually makes the move harder on you. So in order to keep our patient as a stable unit, you want them to put their hands on your shoulders, not around your neck. Just you want their hands resting on your shoulders, and that moves them as a unit without anything trailing behind. Good. Questions? Yes.
This picture right here, where the lady has the gait belt.
Mm-hmm.
Above her waist. That's the thing that's not good, is that right?
You want it around their natural waist. Right. Yeah. Anybody ever watch any Discovery Health shows on TV? Anybody ever watch this? Every once in a while, I'll watch like My 600-Pound Life or one of those shows. Okay. It always makes me laugh because after surgery, they'll show these patients being walked down the hallway. And invariably, you've got healthcare workers that are wearing gloves. You're not supposed to wear gloves outside of a room. But you also have the gait belt right underneath the arms across the chest. And that is not going to be effective at all if the patient starts to fall. It's also not effective for lifting because you're not lifting at the center of gravity, which means you're putting a whole lot more effort into this than you need to. Yeah. So these are like real, you get to actually see in a hospital, this is what they're doing, but it's so not effective.
You would expect them to know what they need to do.
Yes.
So just remind us.
So at the center of gravity, patient lifted as a unit. Make sure that gait belt is nice and snug around the waist because we get skinnier when we stand. And you make sure you're at that oblique angle when you're lifting and helping the patient to sit. Those are the really big steps for this particular skill. And that keeps both you and the patient safe. Good? Does that make sense? It's a really, really easy skill. All right. So let's go back up here. This is one of the few times that the evaluators will throw you a curveball on the test. And I don't like it. I really don't, but I understand why they do it. So for the test, you've got a patient sitting in a chair and you're assigned to walk that patient. You're going to walk them at least 10 steps. Guys, that's 5 steps in one direction, 5 steps back. Remember, it's return trip. But for the test, they'll actually give you a destination. Like they'll say, walk to the white table and back. Okay. They'll give you a destination. Well, before you start this skill, they're actually going to roll or move something right in the path that they're going to describe to you. So they're going to have the patient sitting in the chair. Now there's a table there, and they're going to tell you, just for this skill, walk to the white table and back. Now, you can clearly see that that's there. But it amazes me how many people will try to maneuver the patient around that table. Right. They are grading you on whether you remove the obstacles before you stood the patient up. Before you stood the patient up. Because once that patient is standing, if you leave them, they have no protection. Right. So for this skill, you're going to do your opening, get your permission, and you're going to move that table somewhere in there, but before you stand the patient up. You can do it on your way to close the privacy curtain. You can move the table on your way to wash your hands. You can move the table when you get back from washing your hands. I don't care when you do it, but you have to move the table before you stand that patient up. Now, the patient's going to lead. So they're going to set the pace. You're going to walk slightly behind and to one side. And you're going to watch that patient the whole time for any signs of distress. Now, the thing about it is that most of the time, well, not most, all the time, patients don't just walk along, I'm fine, everything's good. It doesn't work like that. Patients don't just collapse. Patients give you signs that something is going very wrong in their world, and it's up to us to see those signs and react to them. So your patient will either slow down, they may get pale and sweaty, but most commonly they put a hand out for stability, or they'll put a hand on their head or their stomach. These are all really big signs that something is about to go very wrong in your world. What do you think you should do if your patient gives you any of these signs? Where? You're way over there. Okay.
Like keep with them and see if you can guide them back to their destiny.
I do all of those things. It's to the point that I literally, I'll be walking perfectly fine, and then because my iron levels are very critical, I'll just collapse out of nowhere. Like I'll be walking fine, I just fall. But most of the time, I'm reaching out for something, or my mom can tell I'm careless. Like
Right. Right.
And so she'll grab onto me, or I'll grab on to her shoulder with the strength that I got.
Right.
But most of the time she'll grab onto me, or she'll hold me from the back with her hands around my waist.
Right. So that's exactly it. So first thing we want to do is stop walking. It's really funny though, because a lot of CNAs will try to hurry the patient back to the chair. If they aren't tolerating a slow walk, a hurry is out of the question. They're not going to make it. And that's when most falls happen. They don't happen when the symptoms first start. They happen when the CNA tries to rush them back to safety. So we can't do that. We're not going to rush them back to safety. The best place to put them is on the floor. Patients that are sitting on the floor can't fall on the floor. That's easy. So just like your mom, if I'm walking a patient, remember I have to be slightly behind and to one side. So my hand is right here and I'm feeling for any sudden wavering, right? Any off course maneuvering, anything that I'm feeling with my hand. I'm watching for changes, pale, sweaty, hand out, hand up, hand here. I'm watching for these things. I'm feeling. If I notice anything, remember I'm slightly behind, right? This foot goes right here, right in between theirs. This hand grabs the other side of the gait belt and I bring them back against me. And we're going to slide to the floor. 1, 2, 3. And down we go. Okay. Once they're on the floor, they're safe. Now I can get a nurse. I don't want to leave the patient, so I'm probably going to call for somebody to go get the nurse. But if I had to, I could leave the patient quickly to make to call whoever I needed to call because the patient is safe on the floor. For some reason, we resist putting patients on the floor. I don't know why. It's the safest place for them if they're unsteady. Right. Yeah. If you have an unsteady patient, you put them in a chair without arms on it and they pass out, they can fall. So where's the safest place for them?
And if they topple over it, they're not going too far.
Right.
So if they do pass out and they slide to the side, they're not going too far. Only downfall is you're hitting the hardwood.
Right. You can also get them to scoot up against the wall that's there as well, if there's a wall there. That could be a written test question. You're walking a patient and they appear unsteady. What is your first action? A, get them back to the chair as quickly as possible. B, go grab a wheelchair. C, lower them to the floor and make sure they're in a safe position before notifying the nurse. D, pull out your cell phone and call 911.
You put them in the hospital.
Right.
Putting the senior down so often they can never get back up. That's my first thought. Once they're down, how are we gonna get them back up?
We have a team. We're not
First
alone.
thought,
Yep, we're not alone.
yeah, of course.
Yeah, and even in a home care setting, you're not alone because we've got the nice guys in the big van that'll come and help us out. Yeah. Yep. So you're not alone there either. The safest place for the patient is, yeah. So keep that in mind for the written test. You will have a test question similar to that. And it's amazing how many people actually get it wrong. Remove those obstacles before you lift the patient up. So just to review, patient's feet hit the floor. We got to talk about their shoes. So we're going to say something out loud. I see you have shoes on. Slipper socks are never enough. 4 fingers between the gait belt and the patient. Feet must be flat on the floor before lifting. We're going to count to 3 before lifting so that they can accommodate and help as much as possible. Once we get them standing, we want to ask, are you dizzy or weak? I want to know here, not there. If I get them standing and say, how you feeling? Are you dizzy? Are you feeling okay? And they say, I'm not feeling so good. Down we go. I got a chair here. Down we go. I'm going to find somebody to go find that nurse. I have sent family members to go find nurses. I have sent roommates to go find nurses. I'm going to stay with the patient as long as I can. Remember, you got people around. Use them. Use them. When we put the patient back in the chair, though, they have to feel the chair behind them. And this is a step that a lot of people don't really stop and think about. When you go to sit in a chair, like these chairs, you subconsciously, you're not even aware you do it, but you actually feel that chair behind your legs before you sit down. If you didn't feel that chair behind you, if you were here and you tried to sit down, your body is going to fight you because your body is afraid that it's going to fall. You have to feel that chair behind you. Now, patients are the same way. When you try to lower a patient into a chair, if they can't feel that chair behind their legs, they are afraid that they're sitting on nothing, which means they're going to fall. So they're going to fight you. They're going to get all rigid, and it's going to be really hard to sit them down. So you need to back them up, say, can you feel that chair? Or let me know when you feel the chair behind your knees. Or when you feel the chair, say sit, and I'll help you sit. I don't care how you do it, but you've got to acknowledge that they need to feel that chair. Okay. And then we're going to use those proper body mechanics. 1 foot in front, 1 foot beside. Good?
Good.
So easy peasy. All right. So one more time, this is what it should look like when we are assisting our patients to stand. Patients are sitting, feet flat on the floor, shoes on, 1 foot in front, 1 foot beside. We're holding the gait belt on the side or around the back. The patient's arms are on the shoulders. We're counting to 3. And on the count of 3, we're going to lift to a standing position and then ask if they're dizzy. This skill should take somebody with your level of experience 5 minutes or less. You're walking somebody 10 steps, guys. Now, a question I get asked a lot for this skill is, do I have to close a privacy curtain? And the answer is yes. Everything, except one skill. We haven't got there yet, but there's one skill where we don't close it. It's the only skill. But the reason is maybe your patient just has a gown on and nothing else. We don't need full moon over Spring Hill. So we're going to get them standing up and then get another gown on backwards to cover them up. We need the privacy curtain closed for that. Maybe when we stand them up, they might leak a little bit. We need privacy for that, right? Dignity, always dignity. So privacy curtains exist for the dignity of the patient. Good? I need a volunteer.
He's like,
Mhm.
She keeps volunteering.
Okay, we're going to do this skill, and then I'm going to read you a comment I just got on YouTube. Pretty interesting. All right. So I am going to simulate hand washing for this skill just for the sake of time so we can get through this. Here we go. Hi, Miss Jones. My name is Patty. I'm your CNA today. How are you? Great. Feel like going for a little walk? Okay, I'm going to go close your curtain, wash my hands, get my supplies. I'll be right back. Just going to move this out of the way. Make sure we have a clear walking path. I'm going to close the curtain. I have clean hands. And I'll get the gait belt. All right, Miss Jones, I see you have shoes on. Are they fastened well? Good. And are your feet flat on the floor? Okay, I'm going to put this gait belt around your waist. It's going to help me lift you to a standing position and provide a little stability as we're walking, okay? I'm just going to slide this around your waist. You can relax. We're going to put it through the first guard by the alligator teeth. And we're going to snug it up. 4 fingers flat. We'll lock it in. Okay. All right, so bring your feet together. You're going to put your hands on my shoulders. I'm going to reach around and grab the back of the gait belt. And on the count of 3, we're going to stand up. And we're just going to stand there for a second, okay? All right, so put your hands up here. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Feel that stability? Okay, just take a second to acclimate. Are you dizzy or weak? Okay, we're going to walk over there to the Cheeto bag. You lead. Are you dizzy at all? Okay, we're going to turn around and we're going to walk back to the chair. Good. All right, so turn around and back up until your knees hit the back of the chair. I'm going to help you sit the same way we stood. So put your hands up here. On the count of 3, we're going to sit. 1, 2, 3. Very good. So now we're going to remove the gate belt. Remember, you always want control over it. Is there anything else I can get for you while I'm here? Are you comfortable? Would you like a magazine before we go? Call light is right there. We're going to pretend you can reach it. Going to open the curtain. Put the gate belt back. Wash my hands. I want to read that care plan one more time just to make sure I did everything correctly. And then tell the evaluator my skill is done. Thank you. That's a really simple skill. Really easy. But there's a lot of safety in it. Safety steps count big. Okay. Questions?
What if you miss a step? You just start over again? And
You
say,
can.
"Start
You can. Either way. You can start any skill over. Absolutely. Yeah. No.
No, ma'am.
Nope. So you have one set amount of time for all 3 skills. So like 31 minutes, 35 minutes, whatever the amount of time for all 3 skills. If you start over, that clock is still ticking. You're using your minutes. But remember, you got lots of time. So you can start over any skill that you want. But where do those evaluators want to be?
Probably at lunch.
At home in their pool drinking their margaritas. They do not want to be watching you start over and over and over and over and over. So starting one skill over because you were nervous and you really botched a lot of things, that's okay. But if you're starting the same skill over 3 times and then the next skill over twice and then the next skill, they're going to tell you you're not ready to test. You're not ready for this. So be careful about how often you use that. A little bit of practice goes a long way. So I just got a comment here from Sonia, who says, "Good morning, Miss Patti. I passed my CNA. Thanks for your awesome videos. I was able to challenge the board."
Yay.
So this is somebody, congratulations, great job. This is somebody who watched the videos, took the test, and passed it. Congratulations, Sonia, great job. How much further are you guys ahead by coming to class and getting all of this instruction, not just videos, all of the instruction that goes behind it? There's no reason for you to fail. No reason at all. Okay? You don't have to have confidence in you. You need to have confidence in me. I'm going to make sure that you're ready. Okay, good. All right. Congratulations, Sonia. Okay. So any questions on ambulate with a gait belt or energy conservation? All right, so go to page 86. How do we know what to do with each patient? All right, this care plan is long and it's incredibly detailed. So we need to pay very, very, very close attention to this. It says to give the resident a partial bed bath and back rub. So I'm going to stop there for a second. Go ahead. Mhm. Yes. It says give the resident a partial bed bath and a back rub. So I'm going to stop there. There's 2 things that I want to talk about. The first is the bed bath part. A bed bath is washing all of the patient while they're in bed. A partial bed bath means we're not washing all of the patient. But if they want a partial, we need to know what parts we're washing. So a full bed bath is the whole patient, top to bottom. But if it's partial, they've got to tell you what makes it partial. What parts do we need to wash? What are we leaving out? So partial bed bath care plans need to be detailed to tell you what parts to make it partial. Does that make sense? Now let's talk about the back rub part. We are not massage therapists. We do not deep tissue anything. That's not what this is. CNAs perform back rubs for 2 reasons. Number 1, circulation. The patient is laying on their back in bed. Remember, that compresses all of the tissues and the blood vessels. So turning them on their back and giving them just a little brief back rub wakes all of those blood vessels up and allows blood to circulate through, which can help prevent what? Bed sores. The second reason is that we're trying to promote comfort. We've talked a lot about comfort in this class. Remember when you were a little kid and you got sick and mom would come along and just kind of rub your back a little bit and it always made you feel a little better? That's all we're doing here, guys. This is not a back rub for therapeutic purposes. We're going to start at the bottom of the back, go up in small circles to the shoulders, and come back down. And we're going to do that 3 times. That's it. Okay. So whatever other types of back rubs you've got in your brain, this is not any of those. Okay. All right. So because it's a partial bed bath, this care plan is going to go on to tell us what parts of the body we need to wash. This care plan says to wash the resident's face, neck, chest, abdomen, back, 1 arm and hand with soap and water. I'm going to simplify this for you. Face to waist, front and back, 1 arm. Face to waist, front and back, 1 arm. That's the simplified version of this. Why are we only doing 1 arm? We don't care. That's what it says. We don't care. The reason that you're only doing 1 arm is because the test is trying to cut this down. If you look at the bottom of the page, you'll see that somebody with your level of experience should be able to complete this in how long? That's the longest skill we have, 19 minutes. That is an incredibly long period of time. So they're trying to cut this time down a little. If they had you wash both arms, it would take longer. They don't need to see both arms. If they see it on one, they know you know how. Okay. They're trying to cut time here. It also tells us to provide a brief back rub with lotion and then dress the resident in a hospital gown. Clean bodies deserve clean clothes. So when we're all done here, we're going to give the patient some clean clothes. In this case, it's a gown, not clothing. It goes on to tell us patients lying on back and center of bed can roll as directed. So we can ask them to do whatever we want them to do. They just can't assist with bathing and they can't get out of bed. So we can ask them to roll over. They will. Okay. We can ask them to sit up. They will. They just can't get out of bed. Now, the problem is this is a mannequin skill. So you can ask them to roll over, but you have to help them with that because the mannequin can't do it on their own. This skill is also going to require the assistance of the evaluator because mannequins don't stay on their side by themselves. They just don't. You put a Barbie on their side, they'll always fall either forward or backwards. They just don't lay on their side. Mannequins don't either. So when you turn the patient on their side to wash, rinse, dry the back and give that back rub and then tie the gown, that mannequin is not going to stay on their side by themselves. The evaluator will reach over and hold that mannequin for you. You're not going to have to ask them to do that. They will do it automatically. But you need to make sure that the mannequin is in the middle of the bed. Because if that mannequin, if you don't scoot them towards you first so that when you roll them, they're in the middle. If you just roll the mannequin and they're on the edge of the bed and the evaluator is holding them there, that evaluator will do this to make a point. Patients are not safe on the edge of the bed. Are you starting to see how these rules that we've learned are showing up in skill after skill after skill after skill. In this skill, your patient's going to be uncovered or undressed. So what do we need? You're going to be washing personal skin, the breast area. What do you need? Gloves. You've got supplies that you need for this skill. Where are you going to put them? You're going to have to get linens to do this skill. Where are you not going? What are you not going to let those linens touch? What if you get too many? Dirty linen. Yeah. It's a washing skill. So whatever you wash, you. Yeah. Yeah. We're going to check the water, and who else checks it? Oh my gosh. You know all this, guys. You know all of this. We're just going to use these same principles that I've been talking about now for 2 weeks. Right? You guys know the class is half over, right? Yeah, there's only 3 classes left after today. And you're going to hear all these things again and again because we're going to use them again and again. Okay.
Are we gonna practice like the written test here?
You've got there. In your white book, I do have a written exam for you, a
Like
final
the-
exam. Yep, 60 question. I also have one on my website. And in the online course, remember I gave you that invitation for the online course on the first day? In that online course are literally thousands of questions that I have written. So you've got access to tons of questions. But if you really want a good understanding of the written test, you need to get my ebook on my main website. You guys remember that? foryourcna.com. It's free, guys. Just go to the very top of my website, foryourcna.com. The very, very top, you'll see ebook. Sign up for your free ebook. All you do is put your name, address, and email in there, and my system emails it to you. And it's a 74-page book on the written test. And it's workbook style. So you can get involved in it. But that will help you on the written as well. But I have a full 60-question multiple choice test on page 142 in this book, but I don't want you to take it now. I'm not done with you. That's why I usually don't bring it up yet. Remember, I'm not done with you yet. I will make sure that you're prepared for both the written and the skills. The written, because you guys understand your scope of practice, is not hard. You know what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do, and what to do if you can't do what you're supposed to do. Right? We follow the care plan, the whole care plan, and nothing but the care plan. If you can't do that, what do? Tell the nurse. Yep, absolutely. And if you make any observations, you don't make decisions. Right. Yep. So what I just said, that is the written test. You've got to know your scope of practice, and that's what the written test is going to grade you on. Okay. Remember, CNAs do routine tasks on stable patients, according to the care plan. Routine tasks. We don't expect them to change. Routine tasks. Stable patients. We don't expect patients to change while we're doing these routine tasks. And the care plan is going to tell us how to do whatever that is. But that ebook walks you through. I mean, I break it down into ridiculous detail. I mean, I make it, just go get the ebook. Go get the ebook. It's free. All right. So let's go back real quick to page 85. Yes. See me after class. Okay, so we've learned the washing rules. We went over it this morning during our review. We know these rules inside out and upside down. What we didn't know, though, is this leaves method for body openings. I told you I'd be getting into that later today. So it is now later today. We are going to learn what this leaves opening is and what body openings means. So page 85 of your book covers this. Now, we did talk a little bit about the chain of infection the first day of class. I'm sorry, the second day of class when we went over gloves. Remember that we learned that if there has to be a pathogen for there to be a problem. That pathogen has to have a place to live, and then it has to have a doorway out. Then it's got to have a way of getting from there to you. Then it's got to have a doorway in you to be able to make itself at home, right? There's a lot of steps there. They don't just fly. Make sense? Pathogens don't drill into your skin either. They have to have a way in. Now, this is important because this chain of infection is going to dictate the way we wash certain things. If we have a pathogen, I don't have the chain of infection up there. If we have a pathogen and that patient has a doorway out, like eyes, nose, mouth, genitals, rectal area, wounds, rashes, sores, or incisions, these are all wet body openings. So this is a doorway out and a way for them to travel. If we're going to wash any of these, we want to try to prevent pathogen transfer. Make sense? Okay. And pathogen transfer is not just a pathogen from you to me. Pathogen transfer can also mean from the patient to that patient, different site. So if I've got an eye infection over here, I don't want to wipe that eye and then wipe this one. So pathogen transfer is not just person A to person B. It's also different sites on person A. Good? Make sense? So in order to prevent that, we're going to use this leaves method. So if we take a washcloth, it's just a plain old washcloth, square, right? You probably have one of these at home in a linen closet somewhere. We usually fold it like this into a square. But instead of looking at it like a square, I want you to look at it as a diamond. And we're going a very specific diamond. The free ends, these flaps are always facing up. So if I hold this as a diamond with the free ends facing up, and I tuck this corner in over here, and I tuck this corner in over here, I now have a place right here to clean with. Once I clean, I can fold that over. And now I've got a new cleaning surface. I can fold that over and it gives me a new cleaning surface. I can fold that over, giving me a new cleaning surface. And I could even fold that over and give me a new cleaning surface on the back side as well. So this one washcloth gives me 5 independent cleaning surfaces. Now, if I'm just cleaning intact skin, if I'm cleaning the arm, let me do this one. If I'm cleaning this arm, I don't need the leaves method. There's no wounds, rashes, sores, or anything else there. One washcloth, all I need. I don't have to worry about it. But do you see this? My dog got a little rambunctious. That is a opening. And it was bleeding this morning. It is a wet body opening. So I don't want to take just one part of the washcloth and wipe all that all over because I can be spreading germs. So I would take this leaf of the washcloth and wipe around that, fold it over, and then I could do the rest. Does that make sense? Okay.
That's what the leaves portion of the method is.
Right. So we're going to use a different leaf for every wet body opening. So if I'm going to wash the face, I need one leaf for one eye, fold it over, one leaf for the other eye, fold it over, one leaf for the cheeks and mouth, fold that over, and one for the nose. Different leaf for every body opening. You're going to see this again with pericare and catheter care. So this leaves method is going to come up again. So when we hold this in our hand, we have the two corners on each side, the folded edge at the palm of your hand, and the leaves are at the top. We have 4 leaves. We're going to wipe and then fold. That gives us a new cleaning surface. We'll wipe and then fold, gives us a new cleaning surface. We'll wipe and then fold, gives us a new cleaning surface. Wipe and fold. Okay. Good. Pretty cool. Right, from flapping. Because remember, one of our washing rules is no floppy edges. Right, we got to keep control of our washcloth. So that's why we hold it in that configuration. Pretty cool. Guys, I have used this with kids more than I have patients. I use this a lot with kids. Okay. Good. Questions? I worked hard on that graphic yesterday. I actually drew that. That's hard. That shadowing is hard. And thumbs, man, do you know how hard it is to draw a thumb? Thumbs are hard. Yeah, I was pretty proud of that. All right, so here's our checkpoints, guys. Partial bed bath, we're going to wash face to waist, front and back, and one arm. We're going to wash the face first, no soap on the face. It stings the eyes, it dries the skin, no soap on the face, just water. So we're going to use water on the face using Lee's method, leaf 1, leaf 2, leaf 3, leaf 4. Then we're going to dry the face. Then we're going to wash the front of the body, everything you see, behind the ears, neck, under the chin, chest, abdomen, side, one arm, underarm, everything you see on the front. Whatever you wash, you rinse. Whatever you rinse, you dry. So we know how to do all that. We're going to do that the same way we just washed. And then I'm going to put a gown on the patient because the front's all clean now. Then I'm going to turn the patient over. I'm going to wash, rinse, dry the back, give a little back rub, wipe off the excess lotion, and then tie that gown. Now, you don't have to do it that way. You can wash the front, turn them over, wash the back, turn them back over, put the gown on, turn them back over, tie the gown. But it's a whole lot more work. And remember that energy conservation thing, right? Our patients, even though we're turning them, that's still energy that they have to expend. So it's better to put the gown on when you're done with the front, turn them over, wash, rinse, dry the back, give a back rub, and then tie that gown. It's less work on the patient. Good. Questions? All right. Control that washcloth, no floppy corners. We've learned that. Support the arm at the elbow. We already know that. Replace the water if it's cold or soapy. That makes sense. We're going to turn them on the side. We're going to give a brief back rub, and then we're going to apply the clean gown. So this is actually a pretty easy skill, other than it is long, 19 minutes long. So if you get this skill for the test, you get 2 super short skills to go with it. So if you turn to page 17 real quick. 17. If you look at the bottom row, the second one, this is the only care plan set for the test that has partial bed bath on it. So you have a 1 in 11 chance of getting this skill. It's an easy skill. It's just long. But look at the 2 you get to go with it. Pulse and range of motion, elbow and wrist. I mean, those are super easy skills, super short. So it's not a bad skill set to have. It's just long. 19 minutes. Doesn't take me 19 minutes to do it. That is the amount of time you would have to do the entire skill set. So, all right. So keep your finger there, but go to page 56. We went over this briefly in another class, but let's go over it a little bit more in detail now. So when you get assigned a skill set that has 3 skills on it, each one of the skills has a time. We've gone over that in class. 4 minutes for range of motion, 5 minutes for respiration. We've talked about that. 13 minutes for denture care, So they're going to add all of those up. So let's look at this particular skill set, right? We had pulse. So if you look on the first column in page 56, you'll see that little chart. How much time do they say we should be able to complete a pulse in? 5 minutes. Range of motion. How much time should we be able to complete range of motion in? 4 minutes. So if you add 5 plus 4, we get 9. How much time should we be able to complete a partial bed bath in? So if you add 9 plus 19, you get 28. Okay, but wait, go back to 17. That doesn't say 28. So where'd the extra time come in? Well, you've got hand washing, which they give you 3 minutes for. And then you've got transition time, which is thinking time. It's time for you to read the care plan, to think about your skill and say, my skill is done, to, remember what supplies you need, thinking time. They call it transition time. So we're going to add 5 minutes for that. So if you take your 28 minutes and you add 3 minutes for hand washing, that's 31, and 5 minutes for thinking, that's 36. So if you look on page 17, how much time does it give us? 36. So those little numbers in the top corner, that's the amount of time you would have for that skill set. Good. Questions?
The numbers like in the book. The big
Mhm.
ones?
Yep, that's how much time you would have to do that entire skill set. Yes.
All the skills that says pulse respirations, ambulate with the default, transfer from the wheelchair, range of motion, just the right time with the recall, resident in the chair, perform health care, denture care. These are all the different skill sets.
Right.
Will they have them that way together?
That is exactly the format they use. So when you look at that first one on page 17, it says measure and record respirations, perform passive range of motion to the hip, knee, and ankle, and dress the resident with a weak arm. Those 3 are grouped together. That is a skill set.
So these are the exact ones.
Those are the skill sets for the test.
So when we take the test, are we gonna do like all of the skills?
You will get one of those,
Just random?
it's not random, the computer picks it, but yeah, you'll get one of these. So these 11 clipboards that you see on page 17, you are going to get one of these 11. One of these is your test clipboard. I don't know which one, but one of these is your test clipboard.
When you're on the test and you finish the first skill, you immediately start the next one?
Right. You're going to tell them you're done with the first one though first. So they're not going to let you start the second skill until you've actually said, I'm done with the first one. Because once you declare that you're done, you can't go back and make corrections. So you'll do your first skill, you'll say you're done, and then you can take a minute to think about, you can go back and read the care plan. You can, that's your transition time. And then you'll knock and go into your second skill. But every skill starts with the opening, every skill ends with the closing. So even though you have 3 skills to do, you can't lump them all together. You have to start with the opening, do your skill, end with the closing. Start with the opening for skill 2, do your skill, end with the closing. Start with your opening for skill 3, do your skill, end with the closing for skill 3. So you have to treat each one of them as if they're separate encounters. Okay. Questions? All right, let me show you the video for this one because it's got really good close-ups. But I want to point something out. Notice that this skill, somebody with your level of experience, should be able to be completed in 19 minutes according to the book, right? Let's see how long this skill actually takes to perform. Partial bed rest on 86. You look here, 12 minutes and 55 seconds, so less than 13 minutes. And that includes all the opening credits and the ending credits. So you've got 19 minutes to do that. And you'll notice I don't rush. You've got plenty of time to get this done.
Hi, students. My name is Patti. I'm your CNA today. How are you? Good. I need to do partial bed bath. Is that okay? I'm going to close your curtain. Let me wash my hands, get my supplies, and I'll be right back. For this skill, I'm going to need a barrier for the table. This will give me a clean place to put my clean supplies. For this skill, I will need 4 washcloths, 2 towels, a clean gown, and a privacy blanket. It's a washing skill, so I will often need a basin, soap, and lotion. And I'll need a set of gloves. Miss Jones, let me go get some water. I'll be right back. Miss Jones, is the water appropriate temperature? Okay. And now I'm going to spread the privacy blanket out over you. This will help keep you warm and protect your privacy while we do this skill. I'm going to spread the blanket without snapping or shaking the blanket. And I'm going to pull your sheet down to about your waist. Okay, Miss Jones, I'm going to ask you to sit forward for me in just a moment so I can untie your gown. And I'm going to spread this towel out underneath you to keep your sheets dry while we bathe. Can I assist you to sit up, please? Thank you. I'm going to untie your gown and spread the towel out on the bed. Go ahead, lay back down, Ms. Jones. Thank you very much. And now I'm going to spread the towel out underneath the arm. I'll remove the gown on the side closest to me, supporting the elbow as I lift it. I'm going to relocate the gown to the other side of the patient. This leaves the patient uncovered underneath the privacy blanket for me. The blanket will keep you warm. Now I can apply my gloves. I'll take the first washcloth and wring it out. And I'm going to use 4 corners. We'll wash the face first, no soap on the face. To show if I'm going to wash your eyes, I'll start with the closest eye to me. I'm going to wash from the inner to outer corner. Very gently, and then we'll fold this sleeve over to prevent contamination from spreading to the other eye. To show if I'm going to wash your other eye now, inner to outer corner. We'll fold that leaf over, and then I'm going to wash the remainder of the face. Using very gentle strokes. Keeping control over the washcloth. We'll fold that leaf over and use the final washcloth for the nose. And then we'll set that aside. I'm going to take the towel and pat dry all areas of her face, making sure not to use too much force. We'll set the towel aside. We're going to take the second washcloth and wring it out. And we'll apply soap to the top leaf. We do not need to use the leaves method because all of her skin from this point is intact. We're going to wash behind the ear, under the chin, across the neck, the upper torso. We're going to lift the blanket to protect privacy but keep the patient covered while we wash down to the abdomen and up the side. Now for the exam, you are going to make sure the patient remains covered until the evaluators ask you to remove the blanket. At that point, you will just continue on. I am going to repeat these actions so that you can see what I have done. I'll remove the blanket for better visualization. Behind the ears, across the chin, the neck, the upper torso, around the breasts, down the abdomen, and up the side. Then we'll clean down the front of the arm, the hand, up the back of the arm, lifting at the elbow, and the armpit last. We'll set this washcloth aside because it has soap on. We'll take the third washcloth of the basin and wring it out. We're going to rinse all the areas that we just washed. So behind the ear, under the chin, across the neck, the upper torso, around the breasts, the abdomen, up the side, down the front of the arm, keeping the elbow supported on the bed. We'll rinse the hands, the back of the arm, and the armpit while supporting the arm. The rinse washcloth can go back in the basin for later use. Now we're going to dry all of those areas. So we're going to pat dry or use short, soft strokes, but nothing vigorous. Go ahead and withdraw, Ms. Jones. We'll set the towel aside. Now the patient has a clean torso, so we'll place the clean gown on her. Ms. Jones, can you reach your arm through here? I'll help you put your gown on. We'll lift the arm at the elbow, supporting it as we lift. And we'll spread the gown out. Okay, Ms. Jones, going to go around to the other side of the bed now, and we'll dress the other arm. Since the care plan said that we only needed to wash one arm, we do not need to cleanse this other arm. That's for the care plan, but we do need to dress it. So I'll remove the soiled gown, and we're gonna place this in dirty linen. And then I'll put the new gown on. Ms. Jones, can you reach through this armhole? Thank you. And go ahead and lift. Thank you. Okay, Ms. Jones, I'm going to ask you to turn onto your left side now. This is going to allow me to wash your back and give you a brief back rub. So I'm going to ask you to scoot toward me, and we're going onto your left side. Ready? Go ahead and scoot toward me. 1, 2, 3. Now the evaluator will hold the mannequin in place while you complete your cleaning. I'm going to take the third washcloth, bring it out, and we'll sew the top leaf. I'm going to wash the back of the neck, the shoulders, and the back down to the waist. We'll set that washcloth aside. We'll take the final washcloth and wring it out. And we're going to rinse all of those areas. The back of the neck, the shoulders, and the back down to the waist. And then finally, we'll dry all of those areas. Back of the neck, and the shoulders, the back down to the waist. Now our care plan asks us to give the patient a brief back rub. So we're going to use a little bit of lotion. Making sure to warm the lotion in our hands before we give them a back rub. Ms. Jones, I'm going to give you a little back rub now. I'm going to start at the small of your back and work my way up in small circles to your shoulders. We'll do this 3 times. This is for circulation purposes. 1, 2, one more, and 3. I'm going to wipe off the excess lotion. Now I can tie the patient's down. And remove the towel that's protecting the linens. Ms. Jones, come on back onto your back, please. And scoot to the middle of the neck. Thank you. I do not want to touch that sheet that's going to go right up next to her face with soiled gloves, but I need my soiled gloves to take care of all of my dirty linens. Ms. Jones, I'll be right back. These items are going to go into dirty linen. Now I'm going to go clean the basin. I'll empty the basin and rinse it. And then pick it up with a paper towel. I'll dry the inside with one paper towel. And throw it away. And then dry the outside with a paper towel. And throw that away. And I'll get one for the floor. I'll collect the soap and the lotion, placing them in the basin. And return the basin to its normal storage. Paper towels can be thrown away. This barrier is going to be discarded. And now I can remove my gloves. Okay, Ms. Jones, I'm going to remove your privacy blanket now and pull your sheet back up. Are you comfortable? Good. I'm going to roll the privacy blanket in a ball so that the trailing edges don't contaminate other surfaces. This will be placed in dirty linen. Okay, Ms. Jones, is there anything else I can get for you while I'm here? Such as magazine? No? Okay, here's your call line. If you need anything at all, please let me know. I'm going to open the privacy curtain and wash my hands. After washing my hands, I'll think about the steps of my skill, make any corrections, and tell the evaluator my skill is done.
All right. Any questions? Any questions? No? Okay. The rest of the class is practice. I'm going to give you, give me about 2 seconds here. I'm going to hand out your review sheets for today. And the rest of the class, you guys can partner up and practice anything that we've learned up until this point. Remember that we still have 6 skills that we have not learned yet. So don't practice those. And Sonia responded to what I said earlier. She said, I was scared at first, but my confidence did it. It was like you were in the room with me.
I saw you smile.
Yeah. So, and I've heard students tell me that a lot. They can hear me as they're testing. They'll hear my voice. And you will, especially like privacy blanket. You're going to hear me say if the patient's uncovered or undressed, and your brain will fill in the rest. Whatever I wash, I rinse. Your brain will fill in the rest. So it does help you when you're going to test. It will.
In my head.
Okay. So take one and pass it down. There's 4 there. There you go. There you go. Anything we've learned so far? Yes. So when you're practicing, you should be practicing in groups of 3. One person is the patient. One person is the CNA performing the skill. The third person should have the book and be reading along and prompt the person that's doing the skill. So if they get stuck, you can say, okay, the next step says you should do this, or, correct them if they do something wrong. Okay, YouTube people, we are going to sign off now. I do not broadcast live when the students are practicing. If you're practicing at home, make sure you're practicing. This is the time. If you don't have a skills book, the white book, you probably should order it because it gives you step-by-step directions to be able to do all the skills. So hopefully we'll see you on Wednesday at 9 a.m. Bye.